Now that is awesome. Another one by 4-0, brand new, ladies and gentlemen. Another intro. I have, of course, the great Jared George with me today, and we are going free. We're going to be talking about a couple things, not the least of which is this Extinction Rebellion, artificial diversion, this manufactured organization that has just shown up really a little over a year ago and made waves with their invasion of a Greenpeace headquarters. And of course, their point man, a hippie, disgusting, filthy looking, what's the word for it? It'll come back to me. The fear of water. Nobody say it. Nobody say it because I can't hear you anyhow.
Well, it couldn't be as easy as aquaphobe, right?
No. It'll definitely come back to me.
It's some kind of $10 word.
It's a $10 word.
It's a big one.
It's definitely a big one.
A $10 word is equivalent to like $1,000 super chat. It's much more than a $10 super chat. The word scale and the super chat scale are not the same.
And that's right. That's right. A blutophobia, I think it is. A blutophobia. Somebody look it up and see if that's right. A blutophobia.
This man's vocabulary, second to none. I thought I was good.
I don't know about that, but some of these just fly in. Maybe they fly in and fly out. But look here, listen, Tony's here. Vampire Squid. 4-0, of course. Thank you, good sir. Big round of applause, everybody, for full null and another excellent intro. Very exciting. Raymond Foster is here. Hey, Raymond, I think you are one of the good people whose, yes, it is, whose messages we are going to read. I'm going to read today. Outrageously inoffensive. Great to see you. Zedez, wonderful to see you as well. There's the great Seaver Hamlin. And I think over here on Gardening with NWG, yes, I do. I see the lovely Laurel and Red Pill Bulgaria, always a charm to see.
That's a throwback. Yeah, Red Pill Bulgaria's been with us for a long time.
Bigot Smalls.
I love that name.
Me too. JK160, Shauna Shaw, great to see you. So many wonderful people. Folks, I want to remind you, Andre is here. I want to remind you that this stream on the gardening channel disappears after the show ends. After Going Free ends, it disappears. So if you comment on that thread, your comment will disappear with it. Make sure if you want to comment that it is on No White Guilt, the channel No White Guilt, because when we are going free, that is where the video will land and stay. When we are doing for the next so many TAP shows, we're doing TAP or one of the others, the shows will land on the Gardening with NWG channel. That might be a little confusing, but just keep an eye out. If you just wait a little while after it ends, it'll be easy to ascertain which channel the show will be staying on. I see Memmers Bruner is here. Great to see you.
Hello. Yeah. And by the way,
Odin's son is here. What an awesome name. I love that name.
Memmers Bruner stays up late with us. I will tell you, I know we keep saying it. You have to wait just a little while longer. I was on a long call before. We're trying to work out some tech, but everything will be available soon on a website.
Right.
I keep saying it, but you never know. Sometimes there's new people in the audience. You need to hear it. You need to hear it a lot, but we're working on a lot behind the scenes. We're going to be expanding what we're doing. That's why we're starting just kind of informally these last 2 weeks, these Tuesday night streams. We're looking at perhaps doing a show every Tuesday night, not always long, but just to kind of set up the week and show you what we're going to be doing for the rest of the week.
Is this view okay for you?
I kind of like the more intimate one, but why don't we take a poll? Maybe that'll be our entropy poll. Do you want us widescreen or close up?
I will actually, now that you asked that, let's get up the entropy under the new, let's see, there is, I got to find the entropy. There we go.
Yeah, Red Pill Bulgaria is reminding me that his site, his YouTube channel is a second version because, like me, he got the axe from YouTube initially on his first channel. Memmers Bruner, of course, is one of the participants in the big contest that I have organized with lovely Porridge from Australia. And just today, we're wrapping up October 15th, at least here in the United States right now as we speak. This was the deadline, so we've had a few last-minute entries rolling in. Stay tuned for announcements about that, too. Jason, check this out. I don't think I've given you this number yet. We are, I think at the count, Parge and I have been messaging to a lot today as well, 25 videos.
Wow.
25 videos for this contest.
That is a success.
Spanning all kinds of styles and approaches. This is exactly what we wanted. I could not be happier. They are on the creators' channels, but we're going to premiere them on the channel dedicated to the contest, stagger them out so you could see a couple a day, announce all of them, give you time to digest them. And then we're going to announce a small site that was made just for the contest where all the videos could be and you can review them. And there will be a time window of maybe a week or so for voting. So stay tuned for that as well. But exciting news that the contest wrapped up today, and we could not be happier with the submissions. In fact, White Art Collective was on about an hour ago, and they did their video as a premiere. So Jeff and his oftentimes partner, I know Chuck Miller helps him a lot with his music production. They did a video together. So that was White Art Collective's contribution. So they did it as a premiere. That's on their channel now. But Jason, I'm just so happy. They took more of a humorous approach, but we have so many creative, hardworking people in this, and this contest is just one way to highlight that. Hopefully there'll be more things like this, but 25 videos, the range of styles, and a nice mixture of new people and names like White Art Collective, like Mears Bruner, who's here tonight, like Poseidon, like Asha Logos, like Jason himself has contributed a video. I just can't wait to keep rolling this out. It's been a smashing success so far.
It has been. It was a lot of fun to make a video, and I can't wait to see everybody's submissions. I saw Jeff's today from White Art Collective a little earlier, and it was splendid. We can talk about that a little bit later. We did have Odin's son, whose name I love, get back on the gardening channel, writing ablutophobia, overwhelming fear of bathing, cleaning, or washing. It's an anxiety disorder that falls under the category of specific phobias. So I had remembered correctly. I don't remember where I learned that, but it was at some point in the deep past. And I see Eternalism, Halindir is here, Red Eagle, so many great folks here. Ladies and gentlemen, if you can, this is going to be a very, compared to the other Going Free streams, a very brief one. We're going to shoot for an hour. I have a lot of work to do, and George has a lot of work to do. Looks like Dan got in as well. Thank you so much, Dan. Ablutophobia, fear of bathing. So this point man, the guy who is out front for this Extinction Rebellion is ablutophobic. If anyone has ever been ablutophobic. Just have one look at that individual. He's the one that's out there with the plans, apparently the one with the brains, but certainly not the one with the dollars that is making this happen. The millions of pounds of currency, the millions of pounds are coming from other sources. And we'll briefly talk about that in just a moment. But if you all could, please grab the URL, whether it's the No White Guilt URL or Gardening with NWG over here on my monitors to my left. Again, folks, this is what I see. And if you are a contributor, if you contribute time, talent, money, effort, ideas, thoughts, supportive words, financially, if you contribute in any way, and you ask me, I will provide you with the color and crystal clear version of what I'm looking at, my workstation. And as I've said before, some folks are surprised. Others say that's about what they expected, but that is what it is. That is.
So you're going to reveal the whole room of what you're working in? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, this is the photo of this entire, everything that I'm looking at here is what this photo here reveals. And so you can see, you can see there are desks here. You can see the 3 of the 4 walls, of course, in the room. You can see some of the ceiling there. It is in black and white, but you can see the lights that are illuminating the room. So this is just prior to a Going Free stream, a I guess, a month and a half ago or so now. And I took that photo, and so many people had asked, what does your workstation look like? And so I figured there's such a small way that I can give back. For those people who are active, I will give them the clear version, and they can get a little inside look at what it is for me when I am producing these going free streams, the after party, after hours. It's a late night somewhere, and everything else that we'll be doing. Let's see, the house.
One of the nerve centers of White Wellbeing. It's funny you mentioned that, because I might change my setup when we switch to the site. I might change my background.
Oh, that's right. You did mention that. Bored Troll is here. Hope you're not bored tonight. So, folks, remember, if you want to, there's Tipsy McStagger. Love the name. Katie is here. Great to see you. The Great Syntheside is here. Great to see you, brother. So many wonderful folks here today. Make sure to tag me. If you tag me as Gardening with NWG, I will probably see it. But if you tag me as No White Guilt, I'm more likely to see it. Of course, super chatting on all of the regular locations. We'll get your comments read or questions answered. And as usual, I may have to change the wording, but we will still reach the point and get to the heart of the statement or question, even with the changed wording. So what I wanted to start out with today is I've left my Columbus Day banner up another day before I get back to the great Halloween banner that Phoenix Fire produced this year. And
has she done all of them, by the way?
No, actually, Julie did all of the banners, and we talked about that this past week, which is a truly magnificent thing. Oh yeah, and folks, Entropy is up and running now.
Because I really like the Halloween. I just wanted to say
the Halloween one. Yeah. This Halloween was done by Phoenix Fire, brilliantly done.
Yeah, but very nice.
We had a big celebration at the beginning of the show last week for the great work done by Julie, because she made banners for every holiday over the course of the year. But what's most important, and they were all brilliantly done, what was most important is that she made a year-long commitment from the beginning. She said, I can make a banner for you. And I said, can you make them all for the whole year? And she committed to a whole year of work for White Wellbeing in this way. And she was tenacious, assiduous, and she honored her word. And it's not always what we see, regrettably. People have lives, things go wrong, and we account for that. We understand that when something goes wrong, you have a sick relative, you have a sick child, whatever it is, something goes wrong. That's normal and happens in life, and you can't continue with what you had believed you could, whatever that might have, that contribution might have been. But regrettably, very often human nature is, there is a lot of hope, there's desire, people want to participate, they want to make something happen, but then they get in, and then they suddenly realize, wow, that's 2 hours of my last week, and that took a lot of effort and time, and it's easier just to sit down and watch. What's good about, or it's easier just to sit down and read somebody's blog or something of this nature. What's good about that is that since White Wellbeing and service to White Wellbeing, advocacy for White Wellbeing, is a community of those who participate rather than those who observe, there is a pressure always to do something. Instead of the reverse, which is what we often see in other spheres of the white positive sphere in toto.
As shown with that contest I mentioned.
Right, you exactly. So you see in these other aspects, you see folks where it's encouraged for you to be passive, because you have egocentric people narcissistic people who want to stand on your head, and just so that they can be seen by everyone. Now here we want everyone to excel. We see and we do all that we can. And I am thinking all the time for how I can make everyone who wants to be a contributor a star, how everyone who wants to be a contributor and make a difference in this world for our people, for White Wellbeing, how we can set up a situation where they can feed themselves and live a modest life, doing that heroic work for our people. That is something that I'm always putting my mind to. And so let's see what we have here. Seavers had got the alerts talking about the alerts on Telegram. Thank you very much for that, Seaver.
Jason, don't want to cut you off, but just pointing out in the chat, I'll say it here too. There will be a community page on our upcoming site too that will feature the kinds of contributions that you're all making.
Mm-hmm.
Videos, music, remixes. Sometimes if you take, a lot of you have taken some speeches of Jason and artistically dolled them up, such as Phoenix Fire, due to one of them. So we have all those, and those are going on the site as well.
Eternalism says the black and white room photo is crystal clear. He has some very thick glasses on to make that picture crystal. Oh, it does come crystal clear and in color if you ask and you are a contributor to the cause. Ooga Booga, has Jared ever been to your home and vice versa? Well, we never reveal that sort of stuff, folks. Don't you know that we live right on top, one right above the other? If you are a long-time member of our community. Red Eagle is asking...
If Jason drops something, I hear it up there.
Exactly. Red Eagle is asking about a training schedule and diet. I look Aryan as F. And thank you so much for that. We do talk about that sort of thing, and we will be doing more health and fitness streams. And hopefully we'll be able to rope the golden one, Marcus, into one of those streams, because he has a very different type of workout from the kind of workout that I do. Some of you will be able to do the kind of workout that he does because that's the kind of body you want. Others, some of you would rather have the more just basic fit, I guess, level that I'm at. And so we'll talk about those, and we'll be doing more of those definitely in the future. So let me go ahead and get rolling here. I think we have, as I say, entropy is up, and looks like we got 6 over there. We got our poll going on right now. People asking, do you like the wide or the narrow view?
We've been wide for a while. Why don't we cut back to the narrow to give the little contrast?
We will do the narrow view.
Now we're closer.
A little closer in their face. We'll let folks decide there. But what I want to do is I want to start off. I left the Columbus Day banner up for one more day because, and that of course was made by Julie, magnificently done, beautifully done, as has every single one. But what I wanted to mention about Columbus Day is that I was thinking about this more, of what my thoughts were last week when I spoke about Columbus Day on Sunday. And I really think that in the future, Columbus Day, perhaps it'll be something that we celebrate on the same day, maybe keep the name Columbus Day and add another name or some more verbiage to it, or just completely rename it. Because given the evidence that is available right now for the Solutrean hypothesis, which may or may not be true, we talked about that a bit. We had Albion, daughter of Albion, supply us with the scientist's name that works at the Smithsonian. She
made a video too, by the way, for the contest.
Oh, yeah, fabulous. I can't wait to see that. She supplied his name, and he of course has the some of the spear points that were made that were found in the United States, dated to or continental United States, I guess I should say, North America. And they had the exact same design as the spear points in the Iberian Peninsula in Europe. They also, of course, had they were even made out of the exact same stone. I gave the analogy, if this were any other group of people, say it were the Jewish people who lived in Antarctica, for example, and we found tools made out of stone, and the stone was only available in Antarctica, and we knew that the Jewish people lived there, and the stone and their tools made out of that stone was found in the continental United States, there would be no hesitation to say that the Jewish people had come to the continental United States at whatever carbon date was on that material. Of course, because of the zeitgeist of the day, which is the anti-white narrative, because of that zeitgeist, this information is suppressed. This information, of course, for the YouTube censors, which may or may not be true about the Solutrean hypothesis, it is suppressed, and people lose their careers. And I understand, and perhaps someone can provide more information on this, that this guy who was who was the chief in his department at the Smithsonian, has been dismissed. Now, I don't know if his advocating of this Solutrean hypothesis, if him telling, hey, look, we have the spear points, we have the evidence of this hypothesis, Solutrean hypothesis being true, we have it, and I'll share it with you. And he spoke on television with it. If that had anything, I wouldn't doubt that it did have something to do with it. But he wasn't just some lackey at the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. This was the guy who was the head of the department. And now he is no longer with the Smithsonian. But given that information, if this was reversed, if it were the black people who came from Europe and this material were found on the Iberian coast and in the continental United States, any other race of people, any non-white race, they would have no problem saying, okay, our people were here according to this evidence. The skulls, the spear points, the skeletons, the carvings, all of these different things that were found, the genetic disparity between the Asiatic people who came across the Bering Strait land bridge and the American Indians and other types of Amerindians that we find in the Americas, those aren't the exact same folks. Something happened. Of course, these peoples all have stories about blonde-haired giants, blue-eyed giants that they had to kill off in their ancient tales. Of course, that's one of the reasons why when the Spanish showed up, they submitted. They said, wow, these are the gods have returned.
The golden one was roaming the Americas.
Right. They said these people have returned, and so we're just going to submit to them. Now, all of this, of course, may or may not be true. But anybody else, if the stories were about black giants with giant afros that roamed the lands when these American Indians and other Amerindians came first to the continent, and their ancestors had to kill them off to quiet the land so that they could then follow the bison and the herds to kill and eat. If that was the case, black people would have no problem saying that they were here before the Asians were. I think the reality, I think what we should do moving forward when it comes to Columbus Day is celebrate this holiday, or remember this holiday, commemorate this day as one, a genocide of our people, the white erasure of our people from a continent, and then two, the glory of our retaking of what was rightfully ours. That is how I propose we celebrate worldwide for Western kind this day, which may, for us, be formerly known as Columbus Day. There was of course, the Scandinavians, the Vikings came down before Columbus, and that was an effort to reclaim land that we had been erased from. And then,
which, not to sort of cut you off, but October 9th, Leif Erikson Day, right around when Columbus Day lands in the U.S.
Right. So this is something that I propose, and I think we should consider as a community for next year, having a completely different commemoration, a recognition of what is done to our people when there is another people present that is numerically superior to us. The Solutreans, Iberians, whatever you want to call them, whoever wielded those superior, and the spear points were superior in the sense that they had a better flight path, a better killing capability of game, and etc., relative to the spear points that were brought across from by the Asiatics, who of course are brilliant, lovely people. But even though we had a superior technology in these spear points, we were so numerically outnumbered, there was no hope for us. So there is a big warning there. There's a lesson there. And we should have days of remembrance that teach lessons about our survival, our well-being, and celebrate also our great triumphs. When we have instances like this, where we retake and reclaim what our people had claimed for themselves. So if, as I say, all of this may or may not be true, we can say that it is our particular belief system And so that can't be taken from us. The anti-whites can claim that all of the evidence is fake, that or they can claim that it means something else, or they can claim that it doesn't exist, or they can do all of that, but they can't take a belief system from us. They can't say that a belief system is fraudulent. And so this is something that I submit to the community, and I think would be extremely beneficial for us for next year. I don't know if any of you all have any thoughts. Jared, if you have any thoughts, I'll check the chat right now to see if anybody has.
Well, then we could start calling rock music soul music if we're Solutrians. I want to take that word soul back. Soul dancing.
Oh, right.
You have soul, brother. You have soul. Solutrian.
Well, I can. Yeah, exactly.
I remember seeing that stuff on the Smithsonian a few years ago, and you're absolutely right. Any other shoes on the other foot, we know what would happen. It'd be on the cover of National Geographic. It'd be on the cover of Time magazine. These were the first so-and-so, but anything going against the narrative, we know how it goes.
Yeah, precisely. Anything that undermines, conflicts with, or contradicts the anti-white narrative, which is the dominant narrative of the West, because the anti-whites dominate the regime
of the West. Think of how insane that is.
Yeah.
In our own civilization. Well, what you said at the end is the most important thing, that if we decide that this is something that we take seriously and we look into it, and there's enough there that there's enough legitimacy to prop up our belief in it, then that's all we need. That's our frame.
Yeah, precisely. That can be our belief system. And I think maybe that will be, that's something I'm going to take a serious look at. And
if it's all gray area anyway, and everyone admits that there's some gray area, we might as well take what we know about our people in the Americas and have that be the primary nucleus, the gravitational point of our story and our understanding of it.
Well, look, Edgar Allan Poe said,
I love that name too.
Remembrance Day. We'll see, brother. I mean, this is thank you for that suggestion. The Rebel Scott is here. Great to see you again. Eric is here. Great to see you. Blunty, hello to you. Train Kelby, great to see you. Lapis is here. Hello as well. Alan, wonderful to see you. So many good folks showing up. We're late tonight, but it's still good to see so many people. Shadow Witch. Now that's a great name. Shadow Witch. Kaz is here. Misty, Lance. Fantastic. All right, what we're going to do now is I want to talk about Extinction Rebellion for a bit, and then we're going to get on to some of your you all's comments and some questions you had. Some of these comments are lovely, and testimonials, and others have some questions embedded in them, so we want to address them, particularly relative to doxing. Southern Bloom is here. Hello to you. Great to see you showing up. Blue Cigar Gaming. So what I want to say about Extinction Rebellion, have you all heard of this anti-white organization? Now, it is an anti-white organization. What's happening here, and we briefly spoke on this last Wednesday, very briefly. I think it was last Wednesday on PWR, where we were asked what our thoughts were, to give a brief idea or a brief sentence or two about Extinction Rebellion. You have here an organization that has appeared out of nothingness, that has just come. Looks like, did we lose Jared George? We may have lost Jared George, but he'll be right back, I assure you, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just check this. Okay. So when you have an organization that just comes out of the blue, if intact, it has millions of dollars behind it. Red Eagle says Jared got Mossaded. He'll be back, I promise. When you have an organization that suddenly has millions of dollars behind it, it just appears on the scene, you know without question that it is manufactured, that it is not a legitimate organization, that it didn't spring up out of nothingness, that it wasn't motivated by a grassroots upheaval of folks who were just so desperately concerned about the earth that they just want to give their time, they want to give their talents, etc. Now, you do have people who are fanatical in that ideology, but you don't have there is people who will be able to feed themselves. You have people who are working at this now, people who are making a living, protesters who are being paid to go out into the streets. How hard is it to get folks from the white positive sphere? And this is not just a fear matter, because there have been other times when it wasn't such a scary thing to get out, periods where there have been lulls and crests and peaks, where it was just getting folks out. They look at their schedule. They say, well, geez, I got to work from this time to this time. I got to pick the children up at here. They got to go to these sports. I've got all of this other stuff I got to do. I got to mow the yard. They can't come out. They can't come to the events. They can't come to the protests because they're busy working for a living. These people are busy voting for a living. They're being paid by anti-whites to be professional disruptors. Not every single one of them, but a great many of them are. And so now you have millions of dollars that have shown up, an organization that has sprung into existence out of nothingness. You have this ablutophobic face man who is a wretched cretin of an individual who ran for political office and got nothing of a vote. He got like a couple thousand votes out of, I don't know how many it was, like a couple million that were available in the running there. Only just a couple thousand. Nobody gave a damn about this individual. He now talks in his interviews, etc., as though he is some sort of Marxist, burn the civilization down rebellion. And that is the individual that the money is behind. They're not criticizing him. They're not yanking that leash back in. They're not reining him in. He is allowed to be out there as their front man, their talking head about the climate, talking about how we're going to break the law. And because this law breaking, and this is not what No White Guilt is saying, this is what this guy is saying, that they are going to break the law, and that law breaking is good because they break the laws that forces the government to deal with them, which, of course, what does that actually mean? If we broke the law and the government dealt with us, that would just be the end of us. So it only works when your controllers, your backers, and are also in the government. See, these are these artificial rebellions, these artificial 1960 color revolution type of things that the establishment, the regime, are actually orchestrating against the population. It would be no problem for them for the government to deal with us. The government in the UK, the government in Australia, and these other places where Extinction Rebellion is showing up like lice carried from one plane to the next, port to port, airport to airport, and spreading all over the place, spreading because they have the money to spread. Now, we have people in the white positive sphere who are doing great things, who are doing magical things. They're making their own leaflets that say no white guilt. They've got the couple websites. They're going out of their own volition. They're posting these things in legal places, and they are spreading the good word of this movement of redemption, this movement of love for our people. We don't have hundreds of these people able to go out into the streets, block traffic, shut down city centers for weeks. And then they're only able to do this because when they do get arrested, first of all, law enforcement's hands are tied, particularly the pathetic, absolute pusillanimous law enforcement in the UK when it comes to all things anti-white. Their hands are tied if they bother wanting to do anything other than dance like freaks with the freaks out on the streets in that country. And if their hands are tied, if they do make any arrests, these individuals, have representation that you and I could not pay for because they're going to get legal counsel by way of Extinction Rebellion. That's how they're so brave. They know when they go out there into that street that they are going to be represented by well-paid lawyers, every single one of them. And then when they get there, they might also know, and it's my hunch that they know, I mean, they might maybe not told explicitly, but it's my hunch that they know that prosecutors are either going to undercharge and then drop the charges, or overcharge and then drop the charges. So they're just going to have a difficult day of having to, but feel great, because they're going to be able to then go villainy signal to all of their other anti-white friends that, look what I did. I went down there, I got fingerprinted, I got photographed. It was a day of fun. They probably went for ice cream, these idiots, after having to go to the police station. Whereas you or I would go into the police station, we would be properly arrested, put into a cell with people who want to kill us or beat us or what have you. The police would take their time getting to break up the fight that takes place in the holding cells. You all know that that's true. Now, what's happening with this manufactured problem, this manufactured organization, this Extinction Rebellion, is that they have demands. Now, always when it comes to these climate fighting groups, now the climate, ladies and gentlemen, is being damaged by these extraordinary, beyond comprehension, these individuals with wealth beyond comprehension. Countries like India and China and the like, absolutely destroying the world with their pollution. And something has to be done. The world is not about to end in 12 years or 10 years. These people have made, in the environmental movement, they have made hundreds of claims. Not just the lady at the end of the street with, looks like she has mange like the rest of her cats have mange. Not just her, but their top so-called prestigious scientists have been making claims for a century, hundreds of them now, about the end of the world and environmental calamity, none of which has come true. Not a single one. Sea levels were going to do this. Ozone was going to tear open and do that. Every single one robbed each and every one of you and all of us of a little bit of happiness and joy in our lives, because we believed that these prestigious institutions and these prestigious people were being honest with us, and they were giving us the truth about the end of the world being imminent, or the end of whatever life forms of animals that we as Western kind care deeply about, unlike the rest of the world. We care deeply about, that we were told they were all going to die off because of the things that we were doing. It's one thing after another: acid rain, ozone tearing up, world going to freeze, world going to catch on fire. Always hundreds of claims from these prestigious people, none of which have ever come true. Now, the truth is that there is massive polluting going on. The truth is that only the white race is going to be the people to stop it, just like the white race were the people who put an end to slavery. Slavery that still is practiced in a few places around the world, but by far and large, if you're going to do business with Western civilization, if there's going to be currency changing hand, this is in the past, more so now than moving into the future, because of how anti-white our civilization has become across the West. But if you were going to do business with the West, you could not have slavery, because we put an end to slavery. Our own blood, sweat, riches, toil, effort, etc., to put an end to this monstrous institution, because we saw it as something that was evil and corrupt and wrong to do to anyone around the world. And we impose that morality on the rest of the world. We probably should have left the rest of the world living the way they wanted to live and just had it our way in our lands. But nonetheless, just like we put an end to slavery, we are going to be the only people who are going to put an end to the polluting of the world. And rest assured that if the polluting of the world, the polluting of our environments does continue, the world's not going to suddenly end. The species are not going to suddenly die off, but you are going to have to live in cesspits everywhere you go. The pollution from India and China is going to make its way across the ocean. It already is showing up on the beaches. These are places that used to be pristine, and even in the proper sense of the word pristine that we use here in the cause for going free, in service to going free, that they were not only clean, but it was also filled with our people, at beautiful environments. Now you go there, you don't see Bambi, you don't see our people. You see the beaches are strewn with glowing garbage from across the world, floating over from the evil that they're doing in other places. And here as well, in Western countries as well, but minuscule compared to these places. Not to mention the fact that the reason why Western countries have such high carbon footprints for the nations is because of all of these non-white immigrants that we've had pour into our countries. We don't need a giant population in Canada, in the United States, in Australia, in Europe. We had a tiny population during the Renaissance in Europe. We could have a absolutely minuscule population. There is no need for all of this. And more importantly, the anti-white elites who are in the anti-white regimes that run or I guess just we should say the regime across the West that run things, they have known for a very long time that virtually everything in the future was going to be done by robotics. They have known that, and they have moved these people in nonetheless. They've moved them in because short term they were focused on those immediate profits, and most importantly, it harmed Western kind and Western civilization, and that gave them glee that you can't even imagine, demonic glee. But these groups, we know, have a history of being anti-white. And we now see in this Extinction Rebellion group that they have a list of demands. And when you look at that list of demands, you see point after point that are anti-white, point after point that look like they could come out of the mouths of any of whatever they want to call themselves, the anti-whites, anywhere in Western civilization, whether they are perched at the top of some ivory tower and leering down, pontificating to the students who sit below them, or they are at your gym screaming at you like a harridan with their hair wild lunatics, like we saw with a certain fellow in the white positive sphere have happened to him. It doesn't matter. These folks have the exact same demands about Western civilization, that more harm needs to be inflicted on white people. Not just that our industries have to be shut down while the industries of China and India are allowed to grow unchecked and grow in a way that pollutes the environment in a way that is inconceivable to Western kind. No, they say that our systems of oppression have to be torn down. They have the exact same verbiage. This Extinction Rebellion is insidious in the extreme, and here's why. They show up just over a year ago in a big way to Western civilization by this invading of this Greenpeace headquarters. And why is it now that they suddenly show up? Why do you see this poor little handicapped, retarded child who's taken from country to country on bullet trains and on airplanes and first class on ships and everything else, polluting the planet? Just so she can go out and be abused, child abuse, because the anti-whites think you won't be able to contradict her since she's a little handicapped little girl. Why are they doing that now? They're doing it now because they see that Western kind is realizing that we are being white erased from our civilization, and the anti-whites want to regain the moral high ground. They want to be able to say to you, how dare you care about your own people when the whole world is about to end? That is what this is all about, ladies and gentlemen. Their effort to reclaim the moral high ground with this absolutely farcical, asinine argument that the world is about to end. Why are you worried about your statue of this historical great leader or warrior or that thinker, that doctor, that scientist, that philosopher? Why are you worried about them being erased? Why are you worried about your history books having your people being white erased from them? Why are you worried about any of these things that are happening to your people? Why are you worried about your town no longer looking like you, being biologically white erased from your own communities when the world is going to end in a handful of years, maybe just another decade? Why are you worried about that? Why are you so selfish? That is the reason why Extinction Rebellion exists. That's the point of it. And here's what you're going to tell these people. You are not going to get into a debate with these bastards, these anti-white bastards, about whether or not anthropogenic global warming is real. It is for them a faith. It has nothing to do with science. For them, it is a faith. The original guy who made the claim of the 200 leading scientists, etc., all say that global warming, climate change, etc., is real, it's anthropogenic, and it's going to put an end to the world in the very near future. The guy was wrote comics. He drew comics in newspapers. And many of these scientists that he included in that list came out after the fact and said, that's not what my work says whatsoever. I don't endorse what this person has put my name on. None of that matters. Because for the people who are going to handcuff themselves in the street so they can have an ice cream party after they go down to the little police station and then head on over to the vet so they can have their cats and their own hair mange corrected. Those people are not going to listen to the reality of whether or not anthropogenic global warming is real, and if it's real, how much can we actually do to arrest it, and if it can be arrested, how long it will take, and how many years there could be until there are changes, and whether or not planet Earth has its own corrective mechanisms for an increase of this or a decrease of that. None of that is an argument that you're going to win. What you say to these people is, there is pollution on planet Earth. Non-white people pollute the most. White people care the most about the environment. If you want to save the world, you have to save Western kind first. That is what you are going to say to these people. That is what you are going to say when you're around the water cooler. That is what you are going to say when you're standing at the lathe with your coworker. That is what you're going to say when you're in that auto factory and you're putting the fender on with one of your coworkers. That's what you're going to say when you're sitting in the law office, or when you're sitting in the accounting office, or whatever your career or job might be that you do. And you have these conversations when you're in your living room, when you're in these holidays are coming up, Thanksgiving, of course, in the United States, Christmas for everybody, Easter after that, all of these holidays, you're going to be with family member, Boxing Day for those in Canada and in the UK. You are going to be having these conversations because Extinction Rebellion is not going anywhere. And these conversations about whether or not CO2, having these, trust me, I've had them. I've had the conversations where I've pulled up the evidence that they pump carbon dioxide into greenhouses because the plants get bigger, stronger, grow faster, are healthier, are more robust and are able to fight off disease. I've pointed out the data about planet Earth when there was much higher CO2, how the number of the diversity of plants was infinitely greater. None of these people care. None of them care. They're loony. They have other motivations. Some of those motivations have to deal with villainy signaling, that they're better than the people who live next door, who can afford the exact same house and the exact same cars. And they want to say, I'm a little bit better than they are because I'm a little bit more radical on the zeitgeist of the anti-white zeitgeist of the day, which includes this anthropogenic global warming or end of times, end of days scenarios. So instead of having those debates, just agree. Say, well, it's probably going to be longer than 12 years, to the end of the world. But okay, you believe 12. I say that pollution is taking place. It's largely taking place in China and India. It's taking place in the West, largely because of non-white immigration to the West. White people are clearly the people who staff these organizations. Yes, there are spectacular exceptions to that rule, and you notice them every time when you look at the photos of these people, of these groups, or you look at the people who are protesting, and you see, oh, there's a non-white, oh, and there's another non-white one. Otherwise, it's a sea of white people. This has always been the case. Whether it's the flora or fauna, it's our folks out there fighting for those things that are beyond ourselves, because we feel it incumbent upon us to see ourselves and to feel see ourselves in those things, and to feel the suffering of those things, even in some occasions, ladies and gentlemen, inanimate objects like the rocks of mountains or the flowing water of streams. And we are the ones who go out there. So uncle, aunt, coworker, colleague, boss, subordinate, whatever it is, whoever you're talking to, when they start talking about world's going to come to an end, you just say, yeah, there's a lot of polluting going on. White people are the ones who put an end to it. So if we're going to save the world, we got to save Western kind first. Let them argue with that instead. You then have refielded the conversation back to where it should be. Does that make sense, everybody? You then are back on the subject of white well-being, which is where the multi-millionaire, maybe billionaire or millionaires who are funding this, and they have their brightest people thinking about, okay, so what's the way we can get around what's happening right now? And they just had no white guilt outthink their asses. I just thought circles around their rich, educated asses for you. That is the way you are going to handle their effort to reclaim the moral high ground. You will refield it right back onto the well-being of our people and white erasure. You keep the conversations there and you win those debates. And then I want you to come back into our community and I want you to share those successes, because I guarantee you, you will be having those conversations in the very near future. This Extinction Rebellion is coming to a town near you to shut things down. It's coming to a town near you to make people believe that it's the end of the world. And Jared, before I go to you, I just want to quickly get your thoughts and get everybody's thoughts. I want to read something, because this is just in the news. This is October 15th, ladies and gentlemen. This speaks to two important recent topics that we've had lately. The first is the Cravens and this Rhodesian strategy for white survival that we've heard from some people. Move out into the middle of nowhere, selfish isolationism, you'll be fine then. Just breed plenty of those Ridgeback puppies because you're going to need them. So we have that going on. And then we have people talking about the end of the world when it comes to Extinction Rebellion. And so we have the people who are bunkering, the isolationists, these end of the world in 12 years, these climate doomsdayers. Here we have from The Hague. Dutch police found a father and 6 adult children hidden in the basement of a remote farmhouse where they had reportedly spent years waiting for the end of time, officials said Tuesday. They discovered a man believed to be the father of the family and his children aged between 18 and 25 near a village in a northern province. Local media said the family were found after one of the sons went to a nearby pub in a confused state, drank 5 beers, and then asked for help, saying he had not been outside for 9 years. Police arrested a 58-year-old man at the scene for failing to cooperate with the investigation, but he was not the father. So this is one story, and it's been made available on Yahoo. This new Yahoo News. It may or may not be true. You all can look up other sources for this story to confirm whether it is or is not true. But the fact remains that, and of course we have to say this for the censors at YouTube, the fact remains, ladies and gentlemen, that a great many people have, and I've told the stories here about people in the movement who have said many decades ago, people in the white positive sphere, I should say, not the movement, people in the white positive sphere, many decades ago, who prepared for the end of civilization. They spent tens of thousands of dollars on building bunkers, on getting MREs and other food that will last 3 decades down in these cellars, toilet paper that will last, all of these other things that will last. And I've shared with you some of the terrible stories, like the gentleman who said they decided, well, the end of the world never came after decades and tens of thousands of dollars lost. And by the way, if they had instead invested, these people, tens of thousands of dollars into an organizational entity to fight for white well-being, what would we have today? How good or bad would our situation be today if instead of investing in this stupidity, which probably was a combination of both stupidity and anti-whites helping to vector folks into this idiotic endeavor and this idiotic belief that the end of the world is coming. And also note, you have all these white people who are thinking the end of the world is coming when it comes to the anthropogenic global warming. So instead of fighting for things that are real, like the neighborhood that has changed in which they live, in which they grew up, and now they can't walk the streets, instead of changing to fight that, they are busy hunkering down for 12 years from now when everything is going to come to an end on planet Earth. Same race of people that are suffering. Does it leave you to wonder why? Does it leave you to wonder who might be behind this? An entire gaggle of anti-whites who are laughing all the way to our cemeteries and to the bank at what they're doing with us. I shared with you the story of the guy who decided to use the toilet paper finally because the end of the world never came. The toilet paper disintegrated in his hands. It had been down in the bomb shelter for so long, and his children had gone anti-white. Instead of spending time on educating them on what it means to be someone who loves white well-being, being a proud member of our race. He spent his time buying up all of the guns and the ammo and we support normal prepping and to 100%. But this end of the world nonsense is nothing but a fool's journey. It's a fool's quest. Your life will be wasted. You will accomplish nothing. And you will be like these old timers that I know. They're dying now. They're in their 60s, their 70s, their 80s, their 90s. They're dying now knowing that they accomplished nothing because they built holes in the ground, because they went out and built tiny Rhodesian communities that were going to save everything from the end of the world. And now those little towns, those little communities are surrounded by border crossers with different, very different biospirits. So having said that, Jared, I will throw it over to you. I'll look at a couple of these comments that people have made, and then we'll be able to proceed to some of the great comments that we have from the previous Going Free.
Well, you said a lot there, my friend. I don't have much to add. I would rather engage a little bit with you and the audience and just maybe put a finer point or explore more nuances about how this whole Extinction Rebellion thing is not just what it seems to be, but as you were elucidating, that there's an anti-white, anti-Western core to it. You could also think of how there's this talk about maggot burgers and beef and how beef should be a luxury item. And sometimes the topic of scale has come up. We've touched upon this on tap, and I have a feeling that perhaps that should be a subject that we explore more as we're beginning to do more streaming, and maybe have people who are educated in that to come speak a little more about that. But the takeaway and how it connects to what you're saying is there's this double speak, this double think that we see coming from the people behind the mouthpieces like those leading Extinction Rebellion, that on the one hand are bringing all of these people in from these other parts of the world that didn't develop their societies, didn't have the resources, and a lot of times didn't even evolve to or need to eat as much beef, in this case, we'll keep it on the beef, as we of European descent did. So you want to bring all of them in, and at the same time, this quote-unquote Western lifestyle is the evil. You're absolutely right, Jason. It's a hop, skip, and a jump from all of this speak about the environment to, for these people, then speaking about it is white Western civilization in general that has something wrong with it, that's inherently greedy and selfish and wants to grow and grow and grow and grow. And that's why the environment is in the state it's in. You equate that environment with the white, pretty soon in people's minds, it's going to be one in the same thing. So this is a new way, as a Trojan horse, to get that into people's minds. So you have that, but at the same time, you bring all these people in, and it's the schizophrenic thing. In this view, they have the right to a Western, quote-unquote, lifestyle. So even though their evolutionary course, their history, even their climate and what was available to them didn't account for feeding X amount of people with beef or anything else that we could think of that's part of this discussion, they're supposed to flood into North America, flood into Europe, have all the things that we have, all the technology and all the meat that we have, and we're supposed to go without, and we're the ones that had developed these systems so that we could have the populations that we have and have the lifestyle that we have. So there's a lot of double think. There's a lot going on there. As I said, you said so much, and you had things prepared. I know some of this overflowed from your Sunday night show. So I wanted to, more in the little bit of time we have left, maybe pick this apart more with you or with the audience. I'd rather converse about it than I don't have any long statement, because you beautifully said what needed to be said there.
I appreciate that, brother. Thank you very much. Let's get Vampire Squid says, two biggest problems are overpopulation and pollution. Imagine an Earth with 10 billion people. That would definitely be an overpopulated planet. And
we're headed there.
Yeah, every single one of them wanting to come to Western countries. Okay, Red Eagle's talking about Trump removing troops from Syria and then sending 3,000 to Saudi Arabia. He says, can we have a president who isn't? That's the co-certified app that we see often that name goes with a friend of mine who invented that app. Let's see. Raymond Foster says, Senate candidate for Queensland, I love your wisdom and passion. Well, thank you very much. That's very kind of you. Let's see what else we have. We also have Brand Danger over here on the gardening channels saying, I'll be teaching your arguments to my students this year regarding climate change. Well done. Thank you so much. We have too few heroes in the teaching profession, and the few that we have are just absolutely the incredible people. Think about the kinds of environments that they have to be in. It is an absolutely squalid affair to be an educator in a Western country. You have to imbibe and be submerged in the quagmire of anti-whiteism. So to be able to endure that sort of thing, have the immune system for it, and just so you can be bright enough to share these things with your students so that you're not immediately hauled before an anti-white tribunal and either summarily dismissed for being heretical in their anti-white environment, or you incur these stigmata or these stains on your record. Takes a real hero. So we applaud every one of you. Brand Danger, thank you so much for that. I hope you will. I see Marsha is here over on the gardening channel. Looks like maybe you have a new avatar. It looks very, very tiny, unfortunately, on that monitor, but looks nice. So let's see what we have here. We do have on Entropy a super chat of 10 Canadian dollars, and from Proton, writing the local MSM, mainstream media. Of course, that's just the regime. The regime, for those who are going free, ladies and gentlemen, is news and entertainment media, the governments, county, state, federal, etc. And this is of our Western countries. There isn't a single Western country that isn't dominated by anti-whites and anti-whiteism. It is the mainstream different church denominations that are absolutely dominated by anti-whites as well. It is virtually every large organizational entity, international company, etc., is all part of this regime. They all work together in a symbiotic way. The message comes primarily from news and entertainment media. That's why those sources were so important to the anti-whites in the beginning, because if you can tell people what is good and what is bad, what will get you loved and sex and money, and what will get you hated and ostracized and make you celibate. If you have the power to do that, you have the power to mold a people's morality, and they will pick it up over time. And that's what's happened. Those are the MPs that we teach here. So the local MSM, the regime interviewed someone from Extinction Rebellion last week. They plan to block off a busy city street during rush hour in Toronto. Just imagine if it was a white positive group instead. Exactly.
Murderers, if the ambulance couldn't get through.
Oh, well, precisely.
And that happened, I believe, in London.
Well, I'm sure it did. Because how could it?
Don't quote me on that. I'm not sure.
No, but I mean, how could somebody not be on their way to the hospital in a major city, even one a quarter the size of London, at any hour of the day? Of course, there's going to be someone on their way to some emergency, either a person who is in need of care, who is being rushed, or care providers who are rushing too, or the care providers have picked up the person and they are now rushing off to a hospital or something of this nature to care for the person. Of course, that's going to be happening. And let me tell you right now, everyone knows this who's here. Everyone now, see you, Robert. I see you say good night. See you next time. Sin is here, by the way, 526. Great to see you. Everyone here knows that if we got out and blocked traffic in Mayberry, in Podunk Town with population 1,000, and we blocked a city street for a single hour, the anti-white media, the regime's media, would be telling the world about how a baby died because, or some kind of absolute farcical nonsense happened, or, you know, Farmer Bill really needed to get through there because he had grain. Now the grain has suddenly magically gone sour because he couldn't get through that hour. And or how about this? This is even better. they would say, well, you know what, Allison, someone you never know or you'll never meet, she couldn't get through. She had to wait that hour while these fill in the anti-white slur there, blocked traffic. And then when traffic was finally freed up and she headed off down the road, she got into a massive head-on collision and died. She wouldn't have died that day. She would have been an hour further down the road if it hadn't have been for these fill in the anti-white slurs. So that's what these bastards would do.
All of a sudden the news gets really philosophical.
Yeah. That's exactly what they would do. Let me see what these again, folks, we're going to be quick tonight, so we're jumping on over to the
entropy, and we have the survey up. Maybe we should go back to widescreen because he was asking when it's the two of us. Do you like it close, or do you like it wide?
Okay, we'll do that again.
That's the wide, and now you get the pumpkin. You get my pumpkin in there.
Oh, all right. And
it's a bonus.
He doesn't mean his skull. That is that?
Yeah.
Is that slang all over the country? Your pumpkin is your skull, your head, or is that slang elsewhere? Let's chime in, folks, wherever you are in the world. Does pumpkin, is that slang for head? Like if you've hit your pumpkin? I'm wondering. I've heard it a few times. So let's see. We're jumping the questions over on Entropy. Tony, Utah. The Dem debates are occurring, talking about mandatory ARAK buybacks or confiscations. If this occurs, what do you recommend our people do? It's not going to occur, so there's no need to talk about it. Anything we could say could just be used by the anti-whites in government and the like to say, well, look what they're advising people to not obey the law, or they're advising. We advise you to always obey the law, just like we believe everything that YouTube says. You have to always do whatever the anti-whites tell you to do, and then you'll be kept out of prison. The great Roy Danton says, speaking of fitness, do you have any tips for quickly getting back in shape after a month-long break? Well, if you were in shape prior to a month-long break, you should actually be entering a phase of even better shape. Your body, everything is going to be healing. The ligaments and tendons that take longer to heal than the muscle tissue, that's all going to be healing. Your skeleton is going to be feeling, I dare say, it depends on how much of your, I guess, body awareness you have. A lot of people have no body awareness, but Roy, I bet you do have great body awareness. You'll be able.
Are you aware of your skeleton?
Yeah, you'll be able to tell that you are fitter in your movements, that you're sharper in your movements, that there's less play in your movements. Let me just do this.
Oh, is that the Skype call?
It was a call, I'm afraid. And I might have to.
Are you aware even of your skeleton? Are you that body aware? Can you feel the marrow of your bones?
I don't know about that. That would be something else if you could.
I'm aware that my skeleton is like a 7 out of 10 today.
No, but Roy, you should be getting into that position, and your muscles, if you've been working out for a long time, are going to quickly respond. You'll actually feel much stronger. Some of your lifts, depending on the types of lifts you were doing before, for example, if you were bodybuilding, you'll be a little weaker. But if you were powerlifting, that'll be different. If you're doing the kind of workouts I do, that'll be different. But you'll feel, my bet is what you're doing, you'll feel stronger when you get back to it. Get in there with a few days, make it an entire week of light to medium, everything, a few days over the course of that first week to reacclimate yourself before you start doing individual muscle group lifts again. That's my recommendation. Tony says, considering our military is pretty much owned by a certain people, do you think joining the military now is worth it? Well, it depends. I wouldn't suggest, or I wouldn't recommend to a young person to join the military unless you were going to be able to get into something other than a combat role, get educated, get paid, and then get an education in a field that you can use when you get out of the military, and then get the heck out and get to work for our people. But while you're in, you might as well learn everything that you can then use for the benefit of your advocacy for white well-being. So it just depends. I would not go out and recommend you be a bullet catcher for the anti-whites who run the United States and the rest of the Western world as well. but there are plenty of fields you can get in that are not combat facing. Edgar Allan Poe says on the subject, how do we speak to our people that accept the controlled information pool? It depends, Edgar. It's a great question. It depends on how, to what degree you're saying they accept the information pool. Harken back to when I was talking about a friend, family, or stranger that you're having a conversation with. This was, I don't know, a few weeks ago now, where I said they come to you and they say, well, ABC says this. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, ABC was just caught using fake footage or using real footage from a training exercise that was put on for an audience, and saying that footage, nighttime footage, was used in, was actually real combat. This is something I haven't had a chance to research it. And of course, for our censors at YouTube, it may or may not be true. Everybody can look it up for themselves. But they were used footage from this training exercise while they talked about, and of course, that's giving the impression that this is the Turkish forces decimating Kurdish women and children and all of this sort of business. Of course, the Kurds are an ally of Israel. And so it's not a big wonder then that suddenly we have all of this, ain't it bad when it comes to the Kurds, now that the Turks are taking out their rage on the problems they've had with those people. So when you talk to these people, though, Edgar, what you want to say is, oh, I see, and you can do it to varying degrees. If the person is a friend, is a foe, is somewhere, you feel them out where they are, and you can say, I see that, I notice that you're only getting information from a specific pool of anti-white sources. Have you ever gotten information from anywhere else? Because you know you're going to need information from a number of sources to make an informed or opinion, to come to an informed conclusion. So I recommend to you that you get information from more than just these anti-white sources, which of course is Fox, ABC, NBC. All of these entities have demonstrated now since their inception that they have been anti-white. So you should probably look elsewhere and then use your own mind. Don't just parrot what they have to say.
Question.
Yeah, hit it. Go ahead.
For someone in a work environment, what if the person says to them, okay, what should I watch? But it's too hot for that person in a work environment to maybe recommend what they're watching on YouTube because it's going to expose this work colleague. Now they know their workmate watches all of this evil stuff like what we do on YouTube. So is there anything you could think of, and this is a question to the audience too, that would be more of a stepping stone, that would be a safer work environment, but would be a step away from the mainstream, or maybe certain YouTubers, but not, it's funny. It's a funny question because I'm almost saying, is it what we do going to put certain people at risk if they tell someone that they're not close with? So instead of recommending us or recommending a lot of our peers in this, that there's some kind of middle ground that would be okay just to start the ball rolling with someone. Again, this is a context where this is outside of a close friend or family member where you might be jeopardizing yourself. Unfortunately, we have to think that way, as sick as that is, in the world that we're in today in 2019.
I would recommend to people that if you are in a situation where you are not sure about the individual that you are speaking to, whether or not this individual is going to find out about no white guilt, and then they're going to go tell your shared boss or what have you, and then you'll be drawn before an anti-white tribunal. If you're really unsure about a person in that respect, you might want to try to recommend people like Ann Coulter, some of the hardcore things that she has said. You can, Michelle Malkin, these sorts of folks, you can introduce them slowly to reality, but to put them on the spot as only consuming a tiny slice of information and it only coming through these anti-white entities, that is then to control that discussion. It's very effective, particularly when you have an anti-white who's trying to say, you know, who's using this authority fallacy, this appeal to authority. It's from NBC, and so therefore it's all important and all real and all true. you can say all of these organizations have now been caught faking news stories, been caught faking footage. They've been caught faking people coming up out of the waves. How do you not know this? And when you say that to them, they become very, pardon me, they become very insecure. That is an extremely powerful position, excuse me, for you to put yourself in, to say, how do you not know? That is the easiest way to defeat this appeal to authority fallacy, which folks will use. But you don't necessarily, I mean, if you're trying to bring someone over to White Wellbeing, if you're trying to help them go free, you might want to have a lighter touch. If the person is the kind of person that would be amenable to finding out about the No White Guilt channel or the Great Order channel, by all means, share that right away. Say, hey, these are some reasonable people I've heard. And you can also play down the amount of information you've actually gleaned from us. You could say, I've seen 2 videos from No White Guilt and Jared George and the Great Order, and they both were very reasonable, and they shared some. So maybe you want to check that out. That way, if the person then goes to your boss and says, hey, you know, Joe over there recommended No White Guilt channel, and I went over there and they are heretics. You can then go in and say, would you just ask Joe, or you just ask Phil, the other guy, you just ask him. I had only seen 2 videos, and both the videos I had seen were perfectly legitimate and fine. They didn't say anything about. So this goes to the conversation, speaks to the conversation, sort of circling back to the conversation we have about prepping yourself for being doxxed. This is a very important aspect, a very important step in prepping yourself for being doxxed, is prepare that speech, prepare that excuse for your boss or bosses or that anti-white tribunal or your teacher or your guidance counselor or the principal or the dean, whatever it is. You have to prepare it now when you're calm, cool, and collected. And remember, if your excuse needs evidence, you're not going to be able to manufacture that evidence on the spot when you are drawn and quartered before these anti-whites.
I thought it was a gardening channel. It says gardening with NWG.
Yes, if you need to have an excuse in place for that eventuality, get that excuse in place now so that you then have it. What that can be a lot of different things. And maybe when we start having the call-in show, you all can share with me your personal, hey, this is my situation. What maybe could I do that could be a piece of evidence? I think I can't remember the example I gave the other night, but take those steps now while you're calm, cool, and collected. You're not facing the firing line. You're not looking down of the 357 of anti-white lunacy that wants to blow your head off for not being anti-white enough. But yeah, this is a great question by Edgar Allan on that subject. And slowly tug at them, but really think about the approach that I'm saying here of positioning them as ignorant of everything that's going on. And folks, if you're young out there and you have your elders around you, you just go ahead and you try. Anybody can do this, really, but especially with haughty older people or people who are in positions of power and they are superciliously talking down to you. You can go to them and say, "Oh, you didn't hear about this? How are you out of the loop? How are you not au courant as I am?" And watch them panic. Watch their eyes suddenly stop focusing on you. And they're looking out into space, wondering, oh my God, what did I miss? And then you fill them in on all the rest of what's out there. They will become, as I have seen and others have shared with me their experiences, they will become very nervous about making any declarations about you. Around you, averring anything around you, because they'll wonder from then on out whether or not they have the whole story. And that, my dear friend Edgar, is how you begin to pull them along toward going free and white well-being, making them aware that their information pool is limited and that you have access to more information than they do.
And everyone wants to feel like they're in the know.
Precisely.
To this question of what I had said earlier, I was thinking, you mentioned people like Ann Coulter. Some I could see dismissing that, like, oh, come on, Ann Coulter. An older person's heard about her since the 90s, might be familiar, might just dismiss her. In terms of YouTube people, and I'm just going over in my head who I'm subscribed to, so there might be more. But I think a good in-between kind of thing, because he talks about the news and he's a few steps closer to us, but it's still more palatable for a normie, would be Vincent James of the Red Elephants. I think that, and he's been someone that's appeared on Mark's channel. I think you spoke to him, right? On Power he was on. So he's willing to engage with us a little bit. And he definitely unapologetically will mention sometimes he's, of course, of European heritage and he has a family and that means something to him. And that's part of how he views the world. But it is still something ultimately a little more of that stepping stone kind of thing. Any other suggestions, of course,
well,
please let us know.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually brilliant. Thank you, Jared. Blonde in the Belly of the Beast. There are a number of people that are sort of...
Yeah, with Matt Christensen, they do a news show, right?
That are more peripheral, that folks can
they're very popular. They're very, you can see by their numbers. So they're more outreach to that. And what we need to do is we want to have them keep doing their amazing work. Nothing selfish. If there's other people out there that you connect with in the white positive, I'm not saying it has to be Jason and I always, but what we need to see is those kinds of numbers coming this way. Because right now, like we're still somewhat in the scary shadows and the recesses.
Yes.
What's going to happen when that taboo, not for you all listening, you're already listening, but imagine 10 times, 20 times the amount of people that this is reaching, and then the way that they have the tools to not only free their own minds, but begin affecting the people around them. There's that ripple effect. So it's not about our popularity. It's about more people's lives being changed. Look at what I was so moved. Look at what Jason was reading last week about some of the people who've written in about coming back from the brink of self-abuse with alcohol, and even people writing about suicide, or people writing about waking up friends and family. This is having real effects, and that's what we're looking for.
Amen. Yeah, absolutely. Amen to that, brother. Let's see what else we have here. Tony Utah over here on the widget on entropy says, are you both Christian? Can you share denomination if comfortable? Sad how globalism has crept in, but seems to be getting better. I'm grateful for this community and will be donating greatly soon. Thank you.
We should do a whole show on that. That's a bit of a big question, my friend.
Yeah, I'll say that I wasn't. You can, Tony. You can look to my book Born Guilty. I talk about in the nonfiction tale Crucible about my experience in Christian churches. I went from one to the next, different denominations, Catholic, etc., Mormonism, everything, and everywhere I went, and I went with my all of my friends that were all of these different denominations. I went with their families and their parents, and I jumped from one to the next because everywhere I went, I saw that being proud of who and what we are as a people was treated and taught as a sin against the Christian God, and I knew that just could not be the case. And eventually there was a horrible, this was sort of building for me. There was a big experience that I had, a betrayal, a just horrific betrayal by a guy who was a close friend of mine at one of these churches. And that for me was the ending point for attending church on a regular basis. I am open to Jesus Christ calling me back. I am open to God. If God comes before me and says, return to the church, I will absolutely obey a divine entity. But short of that, I cannot. The kind of stories that I get from my Christian brothers and sisters, from their churches, from their Christian schools, are disgusting. These people are good Christians. They are serving the White Wellbeing. They go to these environments, and then they end up having these people who call themselves Christians, but who want nothing more than to obey Antiwhiteism, to obey this horrific story that will put an end to an entire race of people. And we all know that if we were to approach any of these preachers, any of these deans of these schools or what have you, and say, hey, let's reverse everything that you've written here and let's make it about some non-white group who is the one that has to be erased, like the white race, they would object to that immediately. So there's been no difference there. This is not about a Christian issue. It's about an anti-white issue inside these institutions, just like they are inside every other. And I tell you this, I have plenty of pagans as well, kind of Christian or European white pagans, who come to me with the problems and the complaints about anti-whites in the pagan community. They're either essentially of the feminist variety of anti-white, or they are everybody's pagan traditions are equal, and it's just another version of anti-whiteism working its way, because it is the dominant zeitgeist, the dominant morality, the immorality, as it works out for us, of Western civilization, because these individuals are printing the money and therefore they have all of the power. And if you print the money, have all the power, you control the dissemination of news and entertainment. You control who is then going to be able to get into office, because you control what everybody hears about who's going to be able to get into office. So, but it's not as simple. Of course, this is not Alex Jonesian, where they have a big meeting and they say, okay, Ernie, you're going to be the guy who's going to be president. No, there is human dynamism. There are people who are fighting to get into office. Those are real fights. Those are real competitions. They really hate each other. They are not. And when they do get together, to the politicians to rub elbows, it's because they're trying to out-criminal the other criminal. They are not just actors on a stage for the rest of us. Don't think of it like that. And it's important that you don't. The only reason I'm giving any words to this is because it's important that you don't think of the way that the world works, the real world works, in that way. Because if you do, if you'll have a faulty understanding of the human condition and therefore human society, if you have a faulty understanding of human condition, human society, you can never come to the right answers. You'll hear me talk, and then you'll say, but. And the reason why is because you don't have a proper understanding. It's like the people who say communism works well in theory. It does not work well in theory. The only reason people think it works well in theory is because they don't understand the human condition. It is horrible in theory. It is horrible in implementation. That is like saying that you have a drug that it works wonderful in theory, but in practice, it kills you. No, that means you don't understand the biology of the human animal. So your strychnine is a poison. Even if you want to imagine it as something that could be beneficial or wholesome, that could cure the common cold or something, but then just when you happen to actually give it to people, they die. So it comes from a faulty understanding. It's also a big error of misattribution, which is so common among us, among human beings, is this misattribution, thinking we have an outcome that we say must. I have a feeling, and remember, folks, feeling is not thinking. It's never thinking. If you feel something, it's not a thought. So you have this feeling that X is the answer, and then you work backwards to look for all of the pieces of evidence to prove what your feeling is or what your fear is. This is what most people do. This is how most people think. Is they begin with that, and then they work backwards on the chains and on links of the chain to look for the evidence. And when they come to me with these things, sometimes it can be difficult to disembroil. Hopefully, though, when we're on the show, when we have folks calling in, we'll have some of these great conversations. Tony says, understood, and I agree. Grew up among Catholic and LDS Mormon. I believe in God, but struggle with organized religion, as many people do. Business is good, and on a fire department, business is good, and on a fire department, I'll be donating. I guess a fire department pay. Much love from Tony. Thank you so much, Tony, and thank you for working for the well-being of your immediate community by being a firefighter or whatever role you're playing there. That is a critical role in the community, and we have always honored those who have policed our communities and who have run into the burning buildings. I've always said that every firefighter should be built like a Panzer tank, so that if my house is on fire and I'm unconscious, I want him to throw my ass over his shoulder and be able to fight through the burning logs that are falling down around him and throw me on the yard out front. That's every firefighter should be built that way. So thank you so much, Tony. I imagine you probably are. We have some super chats, Jared, I want to mention before we get too far away. Did you have any things you wanted to say quickly?
Well, we were both kind of asked a big question, and I don't want to get too far off, but I don't want to not answer. Who was it that asked this about the Christian? Tony?
Yeah.
Well, I'm wondering what is appropriate to say right now. Well, first of all, you asked me a direct question, so I'll give you a direct answer. No, I'm not a Christian. I don't believe that Jesus Christ is God incarnate and you must believe in him to have eternal life or something like that. So I'm not. I was raised as such. As I said, this is something that we can talk about. I'm happy to talk about with people in my life. I understand being up here on the show that there's a relationship with the audience, and I want to be honest. But there's also, especially right now, for the purposes of this show tonight, I have to think about what is appropriate and how far to get into. So I just had a few thoughts while Jason was speaking. I'm sure that no matter what I say right now, I'll remember other things later and regret it, or regret not saying something in a better way or leaving something out. So don't take this as my grand statement on all of this for all time. There's just a couple of thoughts on it. One is very important, is that there is a social versus a theological distinction. First of all, for any of you that are new, Jason and I have spoken to people who are pagan, people who are Christian, and people who don't really profess any kind of faith one way or the other, don't see it at least as central to what they're presenting. We are here because we're people of European descent, white people who are responding to the moment in history in which we live, and that always has to be paramount. I think all of you know that. When I say the social versus theological, for a lot of people, if you begin to criticize Christianity, what are they thinking about when they're thinking about you, when they feel attacked about their Christianity? Same could be said of pagan communities too. When I say pagan, I mean folkish pagan, not really the leftist neo-pagan type stuff Jason was saying. So for the purposes of my speech right now, when I say pagan, I'm talking about folkish paganism, Stephen McNallen type of paganism. For either, if they feel attacked, are they thinking, is the average person thinking about deep theological, metaphysical arguments, or are they thinking about the way their grandparents and their parents raised them, and their social life, and the other married couples they know, and the children they play with? For people, especially in certain pockets of America who are still living in that vestiges that we still have of that Christian culture, when they feel attacked, they're thinking about their family, they're thinking about their social life, they're thinking about their community, the church organizations that their life revolves around, or at least is a big part of their life. So I'm not attacking, I would not criticize those things that nourish someone's life as the fabric of their life, as the family, is what they know. When you see people get very bent out of shape, when they're having these Twitter debates, when they're attacking each other, when they're unfollowing each other, people, all of us who care about our heritage, who shouldn't be doing things like that, it's because they're mixing up some people are having a theological debate about metaphysics. Most people are thinking they're being attacked because it's just the way they know. It's what their family does. It's what their social life revolves around, as I said. So we need to be able, first of all, to make that distinction. There's also, I definitely believe that there's a lot more than meets the eye of the five physical senses, so that there is something you could call a spiritual life. But that is so ineffable that it has to be reflected through the prism of an actual person, and in terms of society, a group of people, and the way that they interface with the world. It has to run on the architecture of their physiology, of their psychology, of what Jason has so aptly coined as the biospirit. So there's nothing that's going to fit all people. I know not every Christian thinks that Christianity around the world has to look exactly the same. I totally understand that. A lot of this type of thing is an inkblot test where you see what you want to see. I've had pagans say to me in chats because of certain things that I just share about how I live, how I view the world, how I kind of see the whole world as alive, saying that even though I don't have a pagan altar in my house and I haven't devoted myself to a Norse or Celtic god, I've had more than one pagan say, Jared, you're more pagan than most people who call themselves pagan. Also, I've had plenty of people see a certain spirit that I may have or something they recognize in me and say, Jared, I see the light of Christ in you. So I've had Christians say, I see the light of Christ in you. Jared, I have pagans say, you're more pagan than 90% of the people who say they're pagan. Because again, a lot of people get lost in the trappings. I understand, like I was saying about you get attacked and you feel like your family, your way of life is being attacked. For the pagans, there's a lot of surface level stuff where people dismiss it as LARPing. You dress up as Thor and go in the woods. That's not what it is at all. We all need to be smarter about that. There's a lot of nuances about a different way of seeing the world. I'm interested in, as I said a few moments ago, taking that spiritual life and having it be as close to our instinct, our biospirit, again, as my friend Jason has coined, as possible. So not to rustle any feathers in the audience, and we know we have Christians, pagans, and atheists, perhaps, or agnostic, whatever you want to call yourself, among us. It's hard for me to take stories where you say the most important thing that ever happened in human history happened in a desert with names like Mount Sinai and different place names that don't even sound European to us, made up names by J.R.R. Tolkien sound more natural to me. Galadriel, Aragorn. Now, he didn't just make them up out of thin air. He was a master linguist, so there's more to that. But to teach my kids that the most important thing that ever happened in the universe happened in this other land, in the desert. We're not from the desert. We're from the forests and the mountains. That might sound like a superficial point. I actually think there's a tremendous depth to that kind of thing. Now, I suppose if you think, do you believe Jesus is God and that's it, then I guess that supersedes it. But for me, I wouldn't want to teach my children that this most important thing happened in a culture, in a climate, even with place names and character names, outside of something more native to our biospirit. I want to look for a spiritual life and a community life that is as close to our biospirit as possible. People will say Christianity defended Europe. It certainly did, but there's many academic arguments to be made that it was in spite of, not because of it, that it was Germanized. You know, there's been a lot of literature about this. There's been a lot of scholastic work about this, that all of the instincts about going out on the Crusades were Indo-European, Aryan, whatever you want to call it, warrior aristocratic ethos that was already there, and it was kind of functioning on top of that. It was overlaid on top of that. You could also talk about how Paul, is it Paulianity or is it Christianity? Paul said, go out, spread this word around the whole world. Again, I think that leaves us too open to what we're seeing today with globalism. It took a long time, but now in the interconnected world we live in, it leaves a lot of holes. That's not to say that I haven't left myself open to it. Like Jason, I was raised Christian, and for a time I came back to it, and I had a totally open mind. I said, I want to walk with Jesus. I want to see what this is. I let my mind and heart open to it. And I'm not saying that I was expecting miracles or the clouds to part, but it's not that I was disappointed. I wasn't expecting something to happen, and then it didn't happen, and then I stomped away like a little child. It's just that I eventually grew back out of it as I thought and felt and looked into other things. I know a lot of people will say that, well, you left the church. Who hurt you? It had to be a certain person that let you down. It had to be a certain incident. Nothing like that. Nothing for me that was traumatic. Nobody betrayed me. Nobody let me down. It was just that I found my own path, and I feel like I have a very great spiritual core and spiritual life, and I love life. I love myself, and I've arrived at all that without Christianity. If Christianity does it for you, then beautiful. We're all here together because we're responding to the moment, as I said, in our history as people of European descent. That's the most important thing. Jason and I welcome people from our audience, maybe a little healthy debate on the sides, and that happens, but that can't be the focus when we have the dire situation and circumstance that we have in front of us. Again, I'm sure if I listen back to this, I'll probably think of 20 things that I should have said or could have said better right now. So please don't take this as a grand statement. But I think that that Tony asked the question in good faith, and I wanted to answer his question. So those are some thoughts, not all of them.
Well, thanks, brother. I thought you wanted to pass on that. So great that you jumped in and let folks know exactly where you stand on that. I didn't even actually know exactly about where you were on it. Jared and I don't talk much about things like that, ladies and gentlemen. We are far more focused on advocating for white well-being, as you all should be. I mean, this should be the primary thing in your life. You know, your biospirit, that is what incontrovertibly gave being to you. And it is the only thing, therefore, that can demand your life from you. When you serve it, magical things happen. That I can tell you. And as I said, I think it was on maybe it was the Sunday before last show, I said, we have made everything our own. So whether it was, if Christianity came from someplace else and wasn't our own to start with, then we made it our own. If Martians come here with an ideology and give it to us and it works, we would make it our own. Just as all of the non-white peoples with their unique biospirits make everything that we've given to them into their own image. When we are not there to maintain and to continue to influence, it completely changes from what we had originally given them, as it should. And there's no arguing with that. It's like arguing with gravity. Higgs boson super chatting $2 Australian all the way over there on the other side of the world. We're going to talk about the Higgs field one of these days, Higgs. I imagine you know about it, and that's why you got that name. Liberty and freedom, he writes. Thank you so much for that. JG super chatting $5, and this Higgs and JG is on YouTube, both of their super chats, writing, have you guys heard of Baruch Goldstein? Just learned about his despicable acts today, though it was interesting. We never hear anything about it. No, I don't know who he is. And Jared, do you know who that individual is?
No, Baruch Goldstein? No. No, it almost sounds like it's like someone's made up username.
Oh, I'm sure he's a wonderful fellow, probably very kind to children and the elderly. Now we have a $100 Danish Corona super chat from a name I am no way in hell going to be able to pronounce. Ulgervers Danvs. I have no idea. But thank you so much for the kind super chat. Your avatar looks badass. Was at Scanza this weekend and got the chance to meet with Mark and Woes. Some people couldn't get through the Antifa, the anti-whites that is, but I managed just fine. I'm a big guy. Just ask Mark. I bet you are, brother. Thank you so much for wading through the scum that tried to prevent you and others, successfully some, from getting into Scanza. And we will be trying to wrangle up Frody and some others. We'll see if we can find out their eyewitness accounts. If you would please write me a little pronunciation key for your name. I'd like to get that right. Roy Danton, super chatting, the great Roy Danton, super chatting over here on Entropy, $5. Sad but true, also true, is indeed getting undermined by anti-whites, especially in Europe. Here in the US, we at least have groups like the AFA. Well, that is wretched to hear. And like I said, I hear from pagans, I would say European pagans, I would say, and I don't mean just in Europe by that, I'm white pagans as opposed to other races. I hear from them a percentage of time that is commensurate to what I hear from Christians complaining about anti-whites coming into their communities and undermining what they're doing. Folks, people come in. This is the difference between everything else in the white positive sphere and going free. This is the difference between everything, not only in the white positive sphere today, but in the white positive sphere yesterday. Everything that now we refer to as conservatism, and when that first came onto the scene, all of those endeavors were doomed to fail because they weren't addressing both the psychology and the spirituality of our people. They weren't addressing the culture. They weren't addressing the things that we are doing here that are vastly more important. And when I came into this sphere, as you all know, I started fighting for our people, 7th grade, 11 years old. I started participating with organizations, helping to hand out flyers and the like in my mid to late teens. And I have been arguing for this sort of approach. I made a lot of errors. I corrected course like those missiles that correct course again and again with their servo mechanisms. They reach their targets by continually making errors and correcting course. That's what I did with Going Free. I would continually correct course until I reached these objectives that set people free. You go to these old conservative movements, you go to these old nationalist movements, you go all over the white positive sphere today. God bless them. They've brought a great many people in. The problem is that a lot of those people who have come in were already had blind sight, what we say here in Going Free. They already knew something to some degree, they were fully on board because it had been handed down from generation to generation. They got the data, and now they finally had the data that could support what they believe, and yet they can't share it. They can't spread it themselves. It requires, in those scenarios, a personality, someone of great intelligence, someone of great, I guess, magnetism that then goes out, or attractiveness that goes out and is able to bring people in. That's not going to work, because that is an individual that has flaws that can be taken out, that can be. This instead is a focus on healing us physically, mentally, and spiritually. This is something that, now that this curative contagion is released into the society, is just going to grow and grow and grow. There is no undermining what we are doing relative to what's happened in the past, or the way things have unfolded in the past. So that is why this is so exciting. You all, as I said, all of your names, all of your contributors, whether it's with talent, or we just had Donald Kent do a song, name will come back to me in a moment, of the piece. He just put it on Twitter where he said, this is to my friends, No White Guilt and White Art Collective. Play. Beautiful piece, magnificent. His name is going to be on the Hall of Heroes. Roy Danton's name is absolutely going to be in the Hall of Heroes that we're going to build in the future. There's no stopping this. You all are being able to participate. Consider yourselves lucky, because to be able to get in at the nascency, to be able to get in to Going Free and the salvation of our people when we are still in this chrysalis, before we break forth onto the world and the world at large sees and then begins to come, you have a place in history because you are here today, and I thank you for that. So thank you very much for the super chat, Roy, and that information to back up exactly what I was saying. Lawrence Forbes, $2 Canadian over on YouTube. Thank you so much. Well said about Christianity. My race is my religion, is what Lawrence writes. Thank you so much for that. And the super chat, Roy, back again, $5. I think it's very important to frame such discussions in a way where we start by talking about the positive aspects of our ancestral faith, rather than making it a criticism of Christianity. I agree completely, Roy. That is a wise thing that you have shared right there. Thank you. Proton, $5 Canadian. Thank you, my dear friend. Jason, how much sleep do you typically run on? What is the minimum you would suggest for a mid-20s man who has a lot to get done? Depends. Every individual is different in all ways, but different age ranges, of course, usually have different sleep needs, depending on what you're doing. And we can get Jared's opinion on this as well. But before I answer your question about sleep, I want to jump over here and read a couple of these responses. Outrageously Inoffensive said, I've heard melon more often than pumpkin for noggin. So yes, people were chiming in with... I
think I'd agree with that.
Yeah. Pumpkin head, melon, I've heard, yes, indeed. I've heard all of those, pumpkin head and noggin.
My pumpkin has a long stem this year.
Well, I guess we will let the people with comedy up their sleeves make use of that. Let's see what else we have here. I want to make sure. Okay, we just had the screen leapt on me. Apologize for that, folks. I see Polygon is here. David is here. Eurodyne. John the Confederate. Amen to you. Thank you for being here. Insane Hermit. I saw Matt. Yes, indeed. Machiavellius. Great to see you. Okay, so sleep. How much do I get? Well, it depends. Lately, not very much. As some of you know, I would say I'm going on about roughly 3 hours a night. And that is because recently, well, there's a lot to do. There's a lot to get done. We're trying to get things moving. Do not do that. The human body needs much more than 3 hours of sleep tonight. Don't make that a night. Don't make that a regular thing. I think science, of course, check with your doctor. We don't need YouTube censoring us for giving medical advice. But I think most people, I think medical science says anywhere between 6 and 9, with the median falling in there around 7 3/4 to 8 hours and a quarter, something like this. That's probably the healthiest place to be for everyone. When you are a younger man, you can run on less, but it depends on what you want to do. If you're trying to learn something, you're going to want to make sure you get adequate sleep, because that's where it's being really imprinted and kept. If you are working and you're just trying to get as much done as possible, you have a rush period, then you could get by in your mid-20s on very little, the amount that I'm getting on. But be aware of your state. You don't want to, if you start to get to a point where you feel like you're going to fall over, and the big warning I will give before handing it over to Jared, and then we're going to get on to the rest of this and knock it out and be done tonight, is if you are the kind of person who can fall asleep while driving or working heavy machinery, get the sleep you need if you're going to have to do those activities. Regrettably for me, you could not pump me full of morphine and I would still not fall asleep while driving. I don't know why. When I'm sitting, it just cannot happen. So I've been on more than 3 days of no sleep, able to drive, and I don't recommend that, because you're becoming a danger to not only yourself, but more importantly, everyone else around you. Your reaction times are slowing. And so if you need sleep to be able to drive, then get all the sleep you need. But otherwise, I fluctuate. If I had my druthers and we had an organizational entity, it was running beautifully, I would shoot for 7 hours every single night. When I have to work, I've got to, many of you know, you'll remember that I spoke a couple of shows back that I lost all of the new data that I had added to the verbiage that had already been. Second edition of Go Free had been updated, had been rewritten. A number of changes have been made. I went into it again, making a bunch of more changes. At that point, all of that data was lost. And so I've been working catch up to get it all back and be able to have this book available for all of you all, to empower you so that you can take this message to your friends, family, and strangers. But most importantly, and first and foremost, heal yourself of these wretched, mean pathogens with which we are all infected. So, Jared, any thoughts on sleep? And we're gonna keep rolling.
Well, it's tremendously context driven. What is your diet? What kind of work do you do? What kind of exercise do you do? So it's not a one size fits all thing. If you have purpose and something that's exciting you, then that can go a long way to not quite needing as much sleep. But I usually do it in spurts, where I might have a week where I'm working on something and I push for something, but I need to process things, and it doesn't seem like it's even all physical. For mental, creative type stuff, I need that. Sometimes I do a nap where I just lay on the floor. I don't lay in my bed so it doesn't get too comfortable, but I lay on my floor on my back for just 15 minutes. I turn the lights out and I probably just dip into REM for a second. I have like a little light dream, and that little cat nap will refresh me. I did that earlier because I probably got like 5 last night. I don't go on 3, Jason, I would say. I know you're pushing right now. We both have a lot going on, but we want you around for a long time. And it's a marathon, not a sprint. So there's long-term things you have to think about as well. So perhaps we'll look more into that. I'm speaking off the cuff. It's not like we've done research. But yes, you have to listen to your body, but it's so context specific. Again, if you have something exciting you, if you're eating really clean and you're exercising, you might not need as much. Although if you're bodybuilding to restore the muscles, then you might need more. It all depends. But I would cycle it. I wouldn't go long term without that sleep. I think there are people. Apparently, Trump has this where even at his age he can sleep just 3 hours, but that's a very rare thing where your genes are actually such and your body can repair where that's literally a good night's sleep for you. For the vast majority of people, it's not. But there's things to do. Also, I guess now that I'm thinking of the original question, he said he's a guy with a lot to do. And I think we all know the feeling. But also think about, is that totally a sleep question? Sometimes I catch myself, I'm always trying to refine this. Jason, I'm sure you know the feeling too, where I have a certain amount of time to do things. And it's funny, the work that you have will always balloon to fill that time that you gave it. Try to think about all those ways that you could be more and more efficient and do more with less, reuse things, repurpose things, all kinds of stuff. I'm not, specific examples aren't coming to me at the moment, but getting things done without having as much time on task. I've learned to let go a little bit. I like directing everything, especially when it comes to creative projects, but I have someone helping me with an amazing video that I'm working on. He's editing it. Someone volunteered to edit. He knows more about it than me. Instead of me learning to edit, try my hand at that again. I haven't done that in a while. Learn how to delegate as well. We're all here in this community. That's what this is for. People are coming out of the woodwork to help us more. So that's part of it too. You have to think about the efficiency angle, not just I need to work 19 hours a day and that's some kind of badge of honor. If you can get the same amount of work done in 12, in 10, then who's smarter? The guy that got the same amount of work done in 10 or 19, But anyway, I think that's enough on that, because speaking of putting time into things, we wanted to do about an hour tonight, and we're just about to hit 2 hours. By the way, entropy poll right now, the narrow view is slightly winning, is narrowly winning in the poll. If you want to go over to entropy, Jason, why don't you put us back on the narrow view and tell us when it's just the two of us, do you like it better wide like this, or do you like it narrow?
Yeah,
Jason's going to
turn
us to narrow.
Folks, if you are not, and see what those good folks are doing.
That's narrow. So far, this view is slightly winning, but tell us what you think.
All right. Let's see. We do have, quickly, I want to read. Wanted to mention, that's Parkinson's law. It's not Parkinson's disease. Work will fill the time that's allotted for it. Parkinson's law, not Parkinson's disease. But that's absolutely. If you feel yourself becoming unproductive, there's no use in staying awake. If you get so slow because you're fatigued, then just go ahead and get your sleep and get up and work twice as fast. Absolutely. And I've done that. I've had to do that in the past many times. Over here on the familiar alternative, and I'm going to knock these out because they've been here. Well, it looks like 0 talons for an hour. $2 super chat. Thank you very much for the kind super chat. Writing community is the best prepping. Amen to that. Well written. Thank you, my dear friend. Edgar Allan Poe over there as well, $5. Thanks for the lengthy reply. Would also like to give my highest testimony for my new people here feeling skeptical about going free. I wholeheartedly assert physical, mental, and spiritual improvement and deep sense of satisfaction in life. Thank you so much Edgar. That is very touching, and it is warms my heart, and it will mean a great deal to folks who are new to going free, who are just orbiting into our community. They're not sure what it's all about. And here you are writing, I wholeheartedly assert physical, mental, and spiritual improvement and deep sense of satisfaction in life. And this is as a consequence of going free, ladies and gentlemen. And ladies and gentlemen, Edgar is a working man and puts his money where his mouth is. That's unfortunately most people in the modern West, all they really understand is dollars and cents. And so because that's really all they really understand, I can get a lot more out of someone, knowledge out of someone, by being able to put my hands on them, by giving a man a handshake and looking him dead in the eyes. I can find out a lot about who and what that man is by putting my arms around a man, putting my arms around a woman, shaking a woman's hand delicately. I can find out a lot about their value and who and what they are. But in today's society, so much is just how many dollars. Now, think about this. Edgar here is a working man. Like all of us here are working people, working men and women of the middle and lower economic strata. And Edgar gave just a handful of weeks ago a princely sum invested. Now he's not just saying, these are not just words. These are words that he's putting on top of sacrifices that he had to make. Maybe he had to skip a car payment. Maybe he had to call the cable company or whatever it is, the television company, and say, I'm not going to have the sports ball channel this year and the other channels that I normally have because I want to be able to invest in White Wellbeing. He had to do without something. This isn't Mr. Pie who could throw $1 million at us a month and not know that it's missing. So that is a valuable testimony. If you are new, orbiting in to White Wellbeing, you're seeing this for the first time, you're wondering, what's this about going free? You just heard from somebody who is now a legend and will be in that Hall of Heroes. We have a comment on Sunday's stream and you're going to hear right now, if you are new, especially if you are new, just orbiting in, a couple of comments from some others who are going free. We have Earth is Heart writing, thank you for your sober message for our people. Earth is Heart, thank you so much for writing that testimony. Earth is saying there, and funny that we're talking about Earth after we're talking about it ending, that the message, the going free, the sober, what's sober about it is that it is healing. It is a curative contagion. We're not just waxing eloquent on history or what have you, crime data, etc. All of those things important. Others do that much better than I do. But we are actually making you better, making your friends and family better, and spreading White Wellbeing to our people so that we can be the people who pass through the bottleneck. We also have a comment from Dangerous Willie, the nickname by which I was known by more than one cheerleader squad.
That's what you were called in college, right?
I have every cheerleader squad that I performed before.
when you did your floor routine.
Yes, exactly. Dangerous Willie. No, thank you, Dangerous Willie. A great participant in this community, writing about the thumbnail on this previous Sunday's Going Free. That thumbnail is excellent. As much as this movement is about our love for our people, that thumbnail is a beautiful visual representation of what you mean to it, Jason. Thanks again for what you and the others in this community do for our people. Dangerous, thank you so much for that comment. Lovely comment, dear words, and it means a great deal to me that I can contribute and be able to serve with great people like yourself. Anyone who would appreciate what we are doing here says a lot about their good character with that appreciation. So thank you for those words. And I honor and salute you, Dangerous, for being with us and writing that. Of course, that thumbnail, ladies and gentlemen, if you're unaware, you can go over and have a look after we're done here today, which is me while I was out falconing, which is using the bird of prey to hunt down things like rabbits, for example. And there was a beautiful animal. The bird's name was Ruby, and you can have a look. And I also have, if you look at the stream, you'll be able to see a picture of Ruby in flight. A magnificent, magnificent bird. So a lot of fun. We have a comment from Sam, and we should, ladies and gentlemen, we should participate in these things from our heritage, these things that are meaningful for us. If you're going to do something, don't for entertainment, for fun, educate yourself. Go out and I go out and do things that our people of yore have done, and I have no knowledge of it. I go out there to do it because it's something our people did, because it's something that, in fact, when it comes to that particular sport, something that our kings did, and those who served our kings. And you can get an education doing it at the same time. And if you have children, all the better, for God's sakes. Get them away from television. Take them out to watch something like that. Sam writing, thank you so much for writing here, Sam. Question for Jason or any supporters. With a pseudonym, how do I support and send money to the NWG channel without using my real name? Well, the first thing I'm going to say, Sam and everyone, this speaks directly to the conversation we were having about being doxxed. Using a pseudonym is one of the steps you want to take. Nom de guerre, a fake name, a nickname, some other name you can go by while you are participating, because we want to prevent you from being doxxed. If you need to be in the shadows, you'll lose your job, you'll be pressured by your family not to participate, whatever it is. There is absolutely no shame whatsoever in serving White Wellbeing from the shadows. So the first thing I'll say is that all of these payment processors, these big payment processors that are used, I guess the first thing is, who are you trying to prevent yourself from being doxxed by? The people you're trying to prevent yourself from being doxxed by are the anti-whites at the universities, down at the heroin den at the end of the street, down at the gender fluid club at the other end of the street. Those are the people you're trying to prevent your data from falling into the hands of. You're not going to keep your data out of the hands of the government ever. Don't ever, if you get to a point where you think, oh my God, the government can find out, I've got to hide from the government, then you need a padded room. You don't need to be participating. Yes, the government will be able to see everything you do. If they want to look, they will know everything. They have technology that you try to look back at when the SR-71 was built, and when it was first driven from where it was built to where it was test fought, flown. Take a look at the black and white photos. It was a giant box they built around this thing that was essentially a spaceship with the technology and etc. And everywhere else around it was as primitive as it could be at that time. I mean, the automobiles, the phones, the technology, everything else, the government can see. So just forget about it, hiding from them. And also, I've had enough of folks who have a guy that was, I could tell so many stories. We're running out of time another day. But if you're afraid that the government will know, and this, I'm not saying this about you, Sam. If you're afraid that the government's going to know, then don't participate, because you're not going to hide from them. Now, the payment processors, it is illegal. So the illegality of taking your information from the payment processor, from where your real name comes in, where your real bank account, etc., comes in, where it connects, it's illegal. And that illegality to share that information, and that illegality is a significant bulwark, specifically when you're just some random person out there. So the other aspect that you have to be able to hold in your mind at the exact same time is, who are you in the cause for white well-being, in the service to white well-being? Is your face out there? Are you garnering the attention of millions, and therefore you are building such steam against the anti-white regime that they are willing to break the law and to find you in their documentation and give your information out to the public? You're not. You're just another person. You're just like, we're like ultimately like a herd out there, and there's safety in the herd. So you're not going to have that sort of laser focus from the government or the payment processing institutions. Of course, there is, people will talk about things like Bitcoin, but and other cryptocurrencies. But of course, I have my tech people telling me that they can even track the Bitcoin currencies as well. And I know there are some disagreement, but the bottom line is that the real weakness when you donate to a content creator is not the payment processor. The weakness is the content creator. So if you have taken a liking to a fancy, to a dilettante, a sciolist, a philosophaster, how do you pronounce philosophaster is how you pronounce that word. It's a rare word. Abecedarian. If you've taken a liking to somebody who is brand new, and they just have this, they're just dilettanting their way to making some dollars by repeating things like Jared George says and No White Guilt says, and otherwise they just like the money so that they can go on their vacations and buy shoes and whatever else they're doing. And you're paying them. You are, as they say crudely, a pay cuck for one of these people. They're the extent to which they lock down the information that comes to them about you as a contributor is going to be lax as all hell. Now, when it comes to me, everything that is being invested in the work that I'm doing is being protected by banking institutions. So I don't have some sort of a weird setup so that somebody could break into my computer and find out who you are, or somebody could find my account and find out who you are. By the way, my passwords are never kept anywhere. They're kept right here. So if I have a go into a coma or something and I lose all my memories, then they're going to be lost. But they're not kept elsewhere, and they're all over 15 characters, except in those cases where some platforms have a limit that ends before that, and in those cases, then it's up to the limit. But they are extremely complicated. And I can tell you that tech people that I've worked with, as they hear me type them out, they say, Jesus, why aren't you done typing your passwords to get in? I won't go into all the different layers I have to protect you all and your investments. So the weakness, as I say, really is with the person that you are investing the money in, most importantly. Now, if you want to absolutely, and this is what some people do, they are so nervous. They think that, they've been around Alex Jones too much, which is not to say that everything the old boy said it was bogus. I know he said a lot of things that ended up being true, but they've gotten this mindset, this Jonesian mindset now. And it's funny how the Kool-Aid seems to work with both analogies, but they've gotten this Jonesian mindset that the government is about to take everybody up and move them into stadiums, which were originally built to be these holding pens for. If you're of that mindset, you haven't quite extracted yourself from that's not about to happen, and you just absolutely cannot fathom investing by way of one of these online payment processing sources. I have a PO box. You may write me. You cannot write me right now by way of my website. You have like a 10% success ability to do that. You can go to my store, nowhiteguiltcollectibles.com. I believe if you sign up, I'm not sure exactly how people have been doing it. I believe if you sign up to be issued alerts, you get an opportunity to email me. You can email me, I will receive that message. I will send you back my PO box, and you could send not a check, but a postal money order.
Money order.
Yeah. So you use a postal money order. You're just and I will give you the information for that. And you could put somebody else's return address on there, whatever it is. But that way, no one will know that you have invested in somebody who cares about white well-being, not somebody who has a flag of some other nation on the wall from some old regime or something like this, but somebody who cares about white well-being. that is the best way. I've had, I won't say, but that is, if you really don't want to be known, and if you're really, really worried, wear rubber gloves when you go in there. You might get a bit of looks, but at least your fingerprints won't be on the paper either. So that is the safest way to invest if you are worried about someone finding out who your real identity is. Otherwise, when you comment on here, when you comment through, or when you super chat through Google, when you, all of these things, I don't even get your, if you, I don't even, most of these platforms, I don't even get your information. So even though my banking is locking it down, as safe as that is or isn't, I mean, you're just as likely to have a Target account and to be hacked. And we hear about this all the time, although they now are reporting it less and less, that it gets hacked and then they have all of your data. And yes, I know they don't, it's not that they know that you care about your heretic, you know, you care about white well-being, but your data is at least that safe. I don't even see what your actual name is. So Sam, if that helps you or not, I hope it does. We'll get Jared's thoughts and then we'll move on to Solar and the next comment as we are wrapping up here. And I'll check your comments as well.
No, I don't think I need to add anything to that. I know Syrup gave a super chat as well, doing double duty, one of our moderators.
Oh, did he do it over on?
I think it was just a regular YouTube.
Oh, it was a regular YouTube. Well, let me scroll on down here. We'll find it. Oh, we have a couple that.
Yeah, Dan as well.
Okay, let's see.
By the way, and I apologize, I forget who said in the regular chat earlier, but someone was talking about blackout curtains and how the darker the room, the better for sleep. We were talking about sleep before, absolutely. And Mrs. Jess Horst, who's with us all the time, wakes up at 4:30 a.m. to make her children a hearty, good breakfast. Mint tea, eggs, pancakes. Jess, you're amazing.
I love that one.
I'll tell you this, as the son of a devoted homemaker as well, I wrote this in the chat, you're not only nourishing their bodies with actual food and not just pouring Captain Crunch or some kind of even worse cereal or letting them have Coca-Cola for breakfast like some parents do. You're not only nourishing their bodies with good home-cooked meals, you're nourishing their beings, their whole spirits, because I can tell you as an adult now myself that they will always remember this and they will appreciate it. That love, I tell my mom this, that's part of a woman's art, and I'm not using the word art loosely here, is creating the home, creating the food. Her love is manifest in that. And I think that without getting, I don't think you have to think all crazy metaphysical about this. I do believe that love for the family and the thoughts of the feeling the love as she's making this food, as a mother's making this food for her children, it goes beyond, it transcends just the ingredients. You could have a good meal at a restaurant, but you're transmitting that love to them. And they know that intention. I know that. And I thank my mom all the time. They'll never forget it. So you're doing even more than nourishing their bodies. You're nourishing their whole beings. One of the most important things you could do. And we salute that. And I just thought it was appropriate to highlight that for a moment.
Well said, and good thinking, especially when we had the issue of these people saying, how could you possibly serve white well-being and care for yourself and eat a proper diet and find a woman to marry and start a living, start a career? Gee, this woman's doing it. This lady is doing it. A beautiful lady is doing it with all of these children, and she's participating. So these excuses, it's unbelievable. So many excuses. So let's not have excuses. Excuses are for losers.
And her husband wakes up at 4:30 to work for their family of 11, and she's here all the time.
Yeah,
you're right. No excuses.
Yeah. And besides, folks, when I say excuses is for losers, it's you are making yourself the loser. You can make the decision to be the hero. You can make the decision to do the right thing. When you fail, you can then make the decision to do the right thing after that. So it's up to you what's going to end up happening in your life. You are the only one who is shortchanging yourself. If you make excuses, then when you look back, you're not going to be able to fool yourself. You'll know who's responsible for why you didn't accomplish what you wanted to accomplish. I guess that's one thing that I'll just say quickly is that I have tried to live my life so that in the moment, I'll say to myself, you know what? I'm going to do X, Y, or Z, whatever it is. However bad it seems, however embarrassing I might feel about doing it, however, if it needs to be done, I'm going to do it, because the Jason in the future is not going to look back on this moment and say, I did the wrong thing. I should have done X, Y, or Z.
Yep.
So let's see. Horatius, super chatting $4.99. Do you cover how to deal with hatred in your book? When is hatred appropriate? How do you focus on love instead of hate? Is indifference the opposite of love? No, hatred, it's anger. There's no such thing as hatred. Hatred is an incorrect view of anger or rage. And what you do, and I've talked about this before in a stream, and I can't remember which one it was, a Going Free stream, but you need to wed your anger and your rage with your love for our people. So the anger and rage about the harm that's being inflicted, and you wed that to the love for our people. And that is where you will find a fire and an energy that never dies. It is what moves me every single day. There is no end to that flame. It will fill you. And you'll notice too, the people that tap into it, especially the ladies that tap into it, you can see, because they stay young far longer than every other lady out there. The same might be true for men, I don't know. But you can definitely see it on the ladies. Their youth, well, of course, it depends on where they get started in the fight for white wellbeing.
Jason and I are in our 50s, so it works pretty well.
It works.
So we'll see. We'll see when we get there.
But yeah, so that is what you have to do. Hatred is an ill-conceived thing that doesn't exist. Hatred is just an incorrect view of anger. It is a way to demonize anger. It is a way to say that anger is bad. That's how it was used even prior to anti-whites taking it up. And now hatred, of course, means something horrible in the public lexicon, in the mouths of everyone. So at some point, this conversation comes up, and it gets wearying. But you do not rehabilitate a word like hatred. It is their word. You just defeat it now. You don't say, and I'm not saying that you are doing this, Horatius, by no means. Others, I'm using your great question here to speak to a general scenario that we have to sidestep and definitely not engage in. And that is to try to rehabilitate the word hatred as I've seen other people do it. As I say, first of all, it's a meaningless word normally, but you're not going to rehabilitate. At some point, when everybody says that a word means something, when it's in the universities, in theses, in doctoral theses, when it's written into law, when it's written into codes of international organizations, just like the anti-white slur racist, when it's all of these places, that's whatever they say it means is what it means. So we use a language that helps us go free. You don't try to take like the word whiteness. Don't ever say that word. We've talked about this a bunch of times. It is wretched. It is ugly. We don't stand for whiteness. They have defined that word, and we object to it. We use anti-whiteism rather than anti-whiteness. Okay, so how do you deal with hatred? That's how you deal with it. You reject it, you wed it with anger, you wed love with anger, rather, and you use that fire to serve you in your efforts for white well-being. I'll tell you, last thing I'll say, I'll get on to Dan's great super chat here, $20 Australian. Thank you, my dear friend. I went out on nights to deliver leaflets for different organizations over the years, and I would fill giant trash bags because I had this anger and this love burning in my heart. I didn't think, geez, I'm going to be out there. I've got 500 flyers in here. I'm going to be out there all night long. I'm going to be getting home with maybe 3 hours to sleep or 4 hours to sleep or something the next day.
That's why it's 3 hours.
Yeah, that didn't even cross my mind. I just thought every house this goes out to, somebody's going to wake up. Somebody's going to wake up. Dan, super chatting $20 Australian, a little financial fire for the Inferno. Thank you. Talking about the Inferno. Edgar not only hit the nail on the head, but smashed the nail through the wood with that testimony about going free. Very true. Well, thank you, Dan, for that great super chat and those words that are 1,000 times better. Thank you, sir. That is very meaningful. And we have the great Sirp doing a double duty with us tonight. Our dear friend back in the moderating role and super chatting 10 pounds. A great arm on that guy. He can throw that money from all the way on the other side of the pond. A troubled mind does not settle well during day or night. It's important for us to find what gives us solace during the day so we can think straight and have achievements to reflect on by bedtime. Amen to that. Well said.
Yeah. And now just to add to the gentleman that said about the hatred question, if you naturally ask, how do you wed love? Of course, it's something that we talk about all the time. Not that we are historians per se or anything like that, but there's so much in the trajectory of our people and everything that's going on now in communities like this that will light your heart on fire with the love of our people, who we are, where we've been, where we're going. If you look at people who are taking our history, like Mimir Bruner, like Survive the Jive, all these people who are making it come alive again, who are teaching us about it, who are uncovering it, Ricardo Duchesne, some of these people that we've had the great pleasure and honor of speaking with, some of these videos that are going to be, if I may plug again, that the contest that Parj and I started, I'm starting to see all these that rolled in, and the way that different people celebrate where we've been, there's an inexhaustible wealth there. Whatever your interest is, it might be military history, it might be more of our folk ways, all kinds of things. Dig into, read the stories, find what lights you up, find what lights your heart on fire. That will lead the path to this love expanding.
Indeed. Well said, brother. And we had Horatia saying, thank you for that explanation. Never thought about it exactly that way. Well, that's what we're doing here. We are giving you a new way to think, to go free. It starts with our own minds, treating our own mean pathogens, and then we spread it to others. I noticed very quickly go by that the great PhilosophiCat is here. Another star has entered the night sky. Thank you for being here.
She has a great, yes, and I just want to say, in the regular chat, she said, ask yourself who benefits from you not hating a threat. Hint, it's not you. Very well said.
Well, as we say, the MC, that anger is a virtue when it protects the innocent. Anger is a virtue. So when they say you're just so angry, or you're just so hateful, you say, look, angry is a virtue when it protects the innocent. And you watch, bring it back. I've had so many people since I've shared that meme curative come back to me and say, my God, that absolutely obliterated the anti-white I was taught. They had nothing to say. They stuttered in response. Indeed, they will stutter. So great to see you. What else was there here that I just wanted to mention? I saw briefly, maybe it'll come back to me. Cultural oncologist says, hey, no white guilt. Sorry, I'm late. YouTube didn't notify me. Bastards. Thank you for being here, good friend. You'll have to watch in replay. And I do want to just orally say here to Angelo Gage that I saw your message and I will be returning it. Good sir. Yes, that is Angelo John Gage, the one you all know of. So we'll get on to Solar writes here. Thanks for showing Mark's book. I had no idea it was out, giving it away. But that just means he will have a best-selling book, if not the first. Look for it. I think so. What I did, ladies and gentlemen, is Solar, thank you very much for the kind words. What he's talking about was I showed everybody's Mark's book, and I randomly opened up a page. I read a paragraph. It was beautifully written. Mark is doing a great deed for us. I don't need to rehash that. But the point being that I wanted to say was that no support shaming in the advocacy for white well-being. No support shaming. When our people are working for you, and remember, these are the people who are tried and true, the people with the bona fides that have been working for a very long time. Those are who I'm talking about. Not the, the brand, not the neophyte, not the newcomer who might be here for who knows what reason. You want to watch that person, let that person pay their dues first before you decide to start helping them out or giving them money or helping them with your time or whatever. You don't know what's going on with them. Wait, especially until they have had some heat, because then you get to see what who a person really is once they're under fire. But for those who are doing things like Mark giving his book away, give this man a pat on the back with some dollars. You're not going to the movie theater and watching a movie for free. You're not going and getting free coffee at wherever you get coffee from. Throw some dollars at this guy and let him know that you appreciate what you don't have to make him rich. You're not going to make him rich. We're all working class people. But this is where we should be putting our dollars. The same, and what I just wanted to add to that, and the reason why I really wanted to read Solar's wonderful statement here, was I want to couple this with all of our artists. The same thing holds true for Luke Mason and the work he is doing for White Wellbeing, for Donald Kent, for the cultural oncologist, for all of these artists who are coming up. I have premiered and will be premiering on my channel. Folks, if these people have a way to throw a couple dollars at them, they have this Bandcamp account or whatever it is, they have a song. I haven't looked at any of these, at any of the Bandcamp and how much they charge. I was told the other day that some songs are 99 cents and they haven't sold a song. How in the hell is that happening in our community? How in the hell? We have to get into the habit. The reason it's happening is because we are not in the habit of saying, I know I can get it free, I know I can get it gratis, but I'm going to go. I just listened to it on No White Girl's channel. I thought it was good. I enjoyed it, or you hated it. But this is a person who's creating. You can see how the content will be good for our people, even if you don't necessarily like the style, the poetry, or whatever. We're going to have some poetry coming up because we have Snow Shadow, who read her own poem and released it the other day. I would like to premiere that poem on my channel as well. Unbelievably moving. I was fighting back the moistening of my eyes. I will be reading, if that's still the plan and she wants to do it that way, her other poem into a video. It's very powerful. If these people have a way to get them money, a Bandcamp or whatever it is, throw $2-3 at them. Let them know, whatever it is. Let them know, geez, I appreciate you doing this. Don't just imbibe for free. The Jewish community has something called tzedakah, and you probably haven't heard of it before, but it is about the Jewish ethnicity. Let me just say, it may or may not be true for our censors. We believe everything that YouTube wants us to believe, but essentially, whether you are practicing Judaism or you're an atheist or you're a Christian or you're in the Jewish community, you have a requirement. It is expected of you to give something to your community, those who are out there doing things for your community. We need to get into that habit. So whether you like it or not, the piece or not, if you think the piece is going to harm the community, by all means, don't give the guy or woman a pat on the back. But whether you like it or not and you think it will be beneficial, then please give them a pat on the back. Give Luke Mason a pat on the back. Give all of these great performers a pat on the back. I'm not going to be able to say everybody's names. There are a great many fantastic. Obviously, PhilosophiCat is one of the magnificent voices from the heavens. But I'm not going to be able to say everybody's names. But look for them. Look around our community. Look on those who premiere. Certainly, listen, if somebody plays on my channel, I hope this community is going to buy a song or two from these folks. Or whatever it is, if it's a poem or if it's a painting, let's get a couple dollars and as a pat on the back for these people. Thank you very much, Solar, for that. Rimrep writes, this is great. Brand new. Writes, great stream. I will be a regular from now on. Beautiful. Welcome to the community for White Wellbeing. After our dust up last week, we had a slew of new folks that were investing themselves in the Rhodesian strategy, thinking that's going to save them in the future. And now they're taking ownership and agency for their decisions to follow the advice of people whose advice they shouldn't have followed. And so good on you all for having the maturity to do that and to come to the right place, to heal yourself, to go free, and to help our entire community. Survivor, I really like that. Survivor writing here, this has not been shared properly. Do it again, people. Now, what Survivor was talking about is Phoenix Fire's video called The Sound of Silence. That can be found in my White Wellbeing community vids. If you are on Twitter or Gab, I hope and expect that every single one of you will go and grab Phoenix Fire's The Sound of Silence video out of my White Wellbeing community vids playlist, every single one of you, and then post it as a tweet on your Twitter. There's nothing about that is in any sane environment is going to get you fired or kicked out of your family or whatever. Phoenix Fire, now it's going to be called, what is she called? She's not called Phoenix Fire on it. She's got that other name. If somebody could write that in the chat.
Frosty
Venus. Yeah, that's
it.
it.
Well, she's a contributor to the contest.
Right. So
Parge and I did.
She made this Sound of Silence, and it moved. I should have tried to keep track. I wish I had. If I had a personal assistant, I'd have to have a personal assistant for the personal assistant. But the number of people that wrote and said they bawled at that. People wrote and said that their husbands, who were only iffy about White Wellbeing, watched and bawled. People watched and said they were not interested in White Wellbeing or what's happening to our people. They watched it. Now they are interested. Whole rooms of people have watched that video. They played for the room that Phoenix Fire made, and they all, not a dry eye in the house, share that video. Survivor was absolutely right. That was a post he made or she made a day ago. God bless you for bringing this up again. Let's revisit these videos. Lawrence Anderson writing, and this is pertinent for this past Sunday, writing, I got doxxed. Every situation is different, but the key is do not show weakness to them. They will attack you more knowing that you feel vulnerable. Remember, they are more scared of you than you are of them. They are indeed, and that's why they act this way, because they are sick people who are imagining that there are people from old regimes hiding under every bed and inside every closet. They probably walk through their houses with like these ghost hunters, these little gadgets, EMF detectors or something for the nearest twisted symbol that could possibly be floating ghost-like, wafting through their houses. And I wouldn't doubt that there's some truth to that. Okay, and so finally we have Raymond Foster, candidate from Queensland. I told you we would have a comment from you. This is the final comment. We will read your final super chats today. It has been fantastic being with you all again. Always goes over because I could just spend forever with you all, and I will in the future. So Raymond here writes, your wisdom never disappoints, brother. In regard to not informing our fellows of the ills that may happen to befall us, do you think there is room for informing them in a way that shows you are unaffected and only more determined now? A sort of never giving up example to encourage others to not, all caps, to not be afraid. A sort of normalization of being targeted by anti-whiteism, beautifully using the lexicon here, in a way that shows how to rise above it. Raymond, that is brilliantly written. Thank you for your good words, and thank you more deeply, even so, for bringing up this question and this point. And you would have known had you not been such a fabulous new participant to the community that I have a policy. I talk about, you heard me say that those who are prominent figures in the white positive sphere should not go around talking about how they've been attacked or how they've been yelled at in public, or that's what I was referring to. And so that's what you're speaking to. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to clarify. When I am attacked, when in the sense of being censored off of a platform, and if this happens, if I have another physical altercation or something of this nature, I will handle it in the way that is becoming of a man, of a Westman, who is a warrior, a masculine warrior, and that means doesn't necessarily mean fighting with a sword or with a gun or some sort of weapon. It means that you strive for glory. So it might mean that the only thing you ever wield in your life is a pen and your voice. All right. So I will handle it the way a man handles it. And then I will say, and this is my policy when it comes to being censored off a platform, I make it open policy to the anti-whites that for every platform they censor me from, I will get onto 2 more. And so I have kept that promise. And that I have amended the promise by saying, I'll even get back on the one that you have kicked me off of, that you have censored me from. And I have kept that promise as well. That is something that we can say publicly. Absolutely, like you're saying, Raymond. Obviously, your heart and your energy is going in the right place. It's headed toward glory by asking a question like that, because that is what you feel to be right, what you feel to be the right course of action. What I object to, what I don't want those who are, figureheads in the movement, those who are very popular in the white positive sphere, or advocates for white well-being. What I don't want them doing is always going on the in front of the public or writing and saying, well, this happened to me on this day, and then I got hit in the head with a milkshake that day, and then these people yelled at me this day. That does nothing but scares people off. People who are orbiting into this, they're terrified because all they know about the white positive sphere is what the anti-whites have told them about us, which is that we even now we're all holding torches while we're live streaming, and there's some sacrifice probably going on somewhere beyond the closed door, and it's all just an insane satanic fantasy that they have inflicted on our people. And so they come in and they're worried already about this. And then when they hear somebody who's out in the public and who maybe has done things to engender such maybe violent altercations, they've said things to really rile up anti-whites, to appear as the anti-white caricature that the anti-whites have provided to the masses, and to say just the right thing, to really dig under their skin. And then for a thrill, they go out into the midst of these people and they get punched, or they get trash thrown on them, or urine thrown on them, or whatever it is. Those people then go out, or this has happened, they then go out and share those stories again and again, so they can say, look at what I went through. And all that's doing is scaring the hell out of the new people who are orbiting in. They think that's going to happen to them. That's what happens to everybody who cares about white well-being. Well, that's not what happens to everybody who cares about white well-being. If you are just a supporter, you're participating, whatever it is, none of that is going to happen to you. But yes, Raymond, brilliantly said, and I salute you, sir, over there in, I guess it's New Zealand, that when the anti-whites do attack, there have been great people out there. Names are coming to mind about how you should respond. People whose name, but I'm not going to say their names, certain names, because I think that they are being listened to by AI, listened for by AI, and that'll bring the anti-whites in. But people who have had their homes firebombed because of the things they were saying, and then they immediately got right back out there and they said, oh, well, I'm going to keep fighting you all. I'm going to keep standing up, and you're not going to stop me. And they just keep moving forward. That is the kind of mentality we have to have. A great example is Jared George right here. He had a website that was populated with poetry and beautiful paintings from Europe and cultural things, and a YouTube that just had nothing but that stuff, beautiful things, not a single thing that could be said to represent what the anti-whites say, that the anti-white slurs, the heretics are all about. And they just zapped his channel out of existence.
Yeah, the YouTube, not the website.
I'm sorry, the YouTube, out of existence for nothing. No warnings, no strikes, gone. And what did Jared do? He said, all right, back to work. That is how we have to act. Raymond, you're exactly right. Thank you for giving me that opportunity to clarify that for everybody. Jared, if you have any thoughts on that, I want to read out these last super chats and questions on the
No, it's quite all right. As I keep saying, for anyone coming late or anyone new, we're preparing a new site. We're going to be doing more regular streams. We're going to do different types of formats, all different types of formats. But this kind of thing that we have sometimes gotten on informally and chatted with the audience. Some of the taps have been like that, like our Thanksgiving tap last year. And Jason has really established his going free format this year. And I see the hunger. I mean, we can't stay on just for an hour, right? The audience here in the chat is incredible, and there's a real hunger for all of this. So I'm just commenting that there's a lot that needed to be said, and I know you had things that came over from Sunday. So once we prepare the bones of what we're doing, we're always going to be busy. There's always going to be things going on, but I look forward to us doing these streams, this format where it's more talking to the audience, other kinds of formats as well that you'll be seeing us rolling out. And of course, it's just going to evolve how it needs to evolve. But Jason, I'm just thinking out loud, is making me see how we need to be doing this more often, because there's so much that kind of gets built up. And these types of streams where it's really just talking to the audience and you and I talking to each other and interacting, there's a lot that needs to roll into it. Maybe we'll do more, even this kind of thing more often, and we could do it a little shorter. I don't know if that'd be better for everyone, or maybe it's just anytime you're on. There's just going to be constantly questions, and there's so many things people are learning. But it's an amazing thing to see. It's an amazing thing to see all this growing, everyone contributing, everyone learning together. Those are the only thing on my mind at the moment, but please go on.
All righty, brother. We have let's knock out these super chats. We had some questions. I don't know what in the question widget. I don't know if they were deleted by the questioners or what happened there. I apologize if you asked a question on the question widget on Entropy and it has disappeared. I think there's only one there now. Over on the familiar alternative for super chatting, we have the Cultural Oncologist super chatting $3. Thank you, my dear friend. Asking, did you see the new song Olivia Key put out yesterday? It's soul-stirringly beautiful. Also, FYI, Bandcamp routinely unpersons conservatives. Gumroad, however, is a viable alternative. So artists out there, thank you very much for that, Cultural Oncologist. First about Bandcamp. If Bandcamp has shown itself to be a disreputable entity, and the Cultural Oncologist is saying that there seems to be some evidence that that is the case, then do move over to a place where you are going to be safe in creating your art. Gumroad is recommended here by the Cultural Oncologist. And you all can probably get together on Jeff's White Art Collective in the live stream there and share this information broadly. Certainly do it on my premieres I do on my channel. Share this sort of information with each other. Now, I haven't seen Olivia Key's new song. I did. This woman is magnificent, and we premiered her piano piece of pedals. I think there might have been some other instruments in there as well. It was an ethereal piece. Everyone loved it. I am fervently encouraging her to make more material for White Wellbeing. I asked her, in fact, to tell you how great this young lady is, and I hope she hears this. I said, I hope you will. You won't go anywhere, and you'll stay in service to White Wellbeing. And she wrote me back and said, the only place I'm going is going free. I was like, that was
the right response.
It was magnificent to read that from her. So God bless her. Thank you for that, Cultural Oncologist. I will have to look up that song. She is a extremely talented musician, as we have many talented musicians in the sphere. And with just like I was saying about everyone else, Olivia Key give her a pat on the back. You don't have to make her rich, but appreciate what she's doing with a few dollars. Please do that. And I had heard her voice before in another song, and her voice is absolutely, Jared, her voice is mellifluous. We have Jason.
Great word, we like.
We have Jason over on the Familiar Alternative, super chatting $88.41.
Jasons are good guys.
Yeah, Jason, it's a great name. Thank you very much for that, Jason. I'm partial to it. Paying it forward. My bank just refunded everything instead of the one small fee I asked them to. My bank just refunded everything instead of the one small fee I asked them to, because White Wellbeing helped me treat the lady with respect and patience for my white brothers and sisters. My thoughtful language gave them reason to over-redeem themselves. Jason, that is, I'm going to read it again. That is magnificent. Thank you so much for becoming and being the man, taking the ownership for your own actions. And then we were just talking about this. Everything just keeps circling back and coming together and proving nothing but truth of everything that we're doing here. Jason, super chatting $88.41, paying it forward. My bank just refunded everything, all caps, instead of the one small fee I asked them to, because White Wellbeing helped me treat the lady with respect, all caps, and patience, all caps, for my white brothers and sisters. My thoughtful language gave them reason to over-redeem themselves. Bless you, Jason. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for the investment in the future of our white little boys and little girls who will have glad and smiling eyes in part to your words here and what you shared with others and your kind super chat. And for all the good that we're doing, we have Sloth Slayer saying, none of what is being said about our movement is true. Thank you for saying that, Sloth Slayer. Have another beer. Let's see.
Jason's comment, you have to you carry yourself, and you train, you're always refining to carry yourself nobly and express the best option, the optimal version of yourself in a given situation. And it really does ripple outward, and it resonates with you as well. It changes you to treat your own life artfully and bring presence of mind and the best character you can into every situation, every little situation. And all of a sudden it begins to add up and life becomes alive. I like to speak about this. Even mundane experiences at a cashier, things that you go about and you're in your day-to-day life, you're usually on autopilot. Why do you think it is that people begin to slowly feel despair? They feel numb. They don't feel any joy in their life. They're looking to fill it with all of these negative toxins. Life is a beautiful thing, and it's in the details. It's in the little moments. You're only going to have so many days in your life. That's the graduation day or your wedding day or the days your children are born, birthdays. These are beautiful things, milestones, and they should absolutely be celebrated in the spirit of what I'm saying. But all those days in between, 99% of your life, that's your life. And it's up to you to choose how you do these things, how you interact with someone, the tone of voice you use, everything. It matters, and it begins to affect you. You can't affect someone else that way positively without it affecting you. So you're in that upward spiral where you're creating that and it's being reinforced, or are you in that downward spiral where everything is just rote, and the older you get, the more crusty you get. I promised myself when I was a kid, when I saw adults who were that way, I would never, ever be that way. I wouldn't get crusty. I wouldn't get ossified. And if there's only one thing you'll let me brag about in my life, it's that I actually remained conscious enough to do right by that little boy, by Jared as a little boy. I kept my promise to myself. That's the one thing you could write on my gravestone. Well, maybe not the one thing, but it's one thing I'll let myself brag about. I kept that promise, and it made a world of difference, I could tell you all. So, Jason, not you, Jason, but I know you know this well, my brother, but the Jason who gave us that generous investment, I know that feeling well, and I thank you for sharing that.
Indeed. Thank you, sir. We have Horatius back again on YouTube with $9.99. We're going to have to hit these quickly, ladies and gentlemen, because I am going to, in moments, as soon as we wrap this up, I'm going to say goodbye to my good friend Jared. I'm going to swivel this way, and I will be right to work on the second edition of Go Free, trying to make up for that, pardon me, that material that disappeared by some quirk of electronics. Horatius, $9.99. Thank you for that kind super chat. Do you have an explanation for those who black pill fellow whites and do the enemy's work for them? Nick Fuentes said that he believes his method of black pilling is better than your white pilling. Well, the first thing I'll say, Horatius, thank you very much for the kind $9.99, is I'm not aware of any argument that Nick has made about it's better to make people depressed and apathetic than it is to inspire people to work and to overcome accomplishments or challenges, or achieve accomplishments, or overcome challenges and hurdles, etc. I think that would be, he's a really bright guy, and I don't think that he would in earnestness make that argument. He does something very different than what we do, as Jared has mentioned before, and is just simply the fact he's sharing news and entertainment, and he's entertaining while he shares the news, and he gives some opinions about what's going on in the world. It's very different from what we do. The only thing I would caution about pardon me, anyone who is saying blackpilling things, depressing things that will engender apathy, or indolence or resignation, retreat, is that you cannot listen to that and not be tainted by it. So you can't go to and this is the way that all the anti-white propaganda works just in general. You can't go to the spectacular movie with the great story and the handsome man and the beautiful woman and the intense combat and the protagonist, and it's so exciting. And nowadays, with the fabulous CGI, absolutely a magnificent CGI, superb CGI that they have these days, everything looks real. That is absolutely fake. You can't go there and be entertained and not come away from there poisoned with mean pathogens, because they are laced throughout the totality of the work. So you're not going to be able to go into an environment and listen to the news or or just be entertained and have people telling you at the same time that there's no hope, there's nothing that can be done. They have so much power, the anti-whites. We're going to have to wait for, this is going to be millennials. It'll take millennia to ever accomplish anything. You're not going to be able to hear that and not have that affect you. Now, I have managed businesses, big businesses, multi-million-dollar businesses, and I've gone into these places as a fixer, as to go into bad circumstances where the business is in the red and bring it back into the black. And one of the ways that you do this, and I've always was successful, one of the ways that you do this and you always have success is you go in there and first of all, you assess who are the people who are, I guess you could say, the black pillars. Who are the people who are the depressed ones? Who are the ones that are pulling everybody down? Who are the ones that are saying that the business will never be a success, or the location is bad, or the weather is always bad here, whatever it is. There's always a complaint, or they're always showing up and they want to complain about something horrible this, something horrible that, and you get rid of them. Because you can't fix everybody in the world. You don't have time to fix everybody in the world. Some people don't want to be fixed. They want to wallow in misery. You get rid of those people. And you hire people that are capable of being fixed. And you teach those and you inspire those who are already on the right path. And you get them going in the right direction. You say, here are the challenges that are before us. And here's the plan to tackle those challenges. Let's get to work. And yeah, we're going to have setbacks. Yes, things are going to go wrong. Yes, we're going to, and in every single case, we brought things up to profitability. So that is how you tackle challenges. That's how we're going to tackle this challenge. I really doubt he's a bright guy. I really doubt he was honestly making an argument that by depressing people and telling them that nothing can be done, that is a superior way. So if anything, I'm going to give him a salute, even if he's saying something negative about me. I don't care. I'm going to give him a salute and an attaboy and a thank you for the folks that he is bringing to his channel, which is much more successful than this one, and making them aware of what's going on around the world.
Well, it has bigger numbers, but don't.
Oh, correct.
Sell yourself too short.
Correct.
A few different ways we could slice that, but go on.
Well said. Well said. Point taken. And so bringing a lot of people around who otherwise wouldn't be hearing a conservative or a nationalistic take on what's going on in the world, wouldn't be getting his 2 cents, wouldn't be hearing things that are amenable to, I guess, make folks amenable to the kind of things that we are saying here about going free. So I give him a pat on the back and a thank you, a sincere thank you, even if he has or is saying something silly. Or remember, this is another thing about Nick Fuentes, is that he has a lot of joking and sort of the insulting, the snide comments to get a laugh and
that's the game. That's the shtick. Yeah. For it to be a show. So if he's saying something that is otherwise less than flattering about me, who knows what his genuine sentiment is? That's, as Jared said, that's his shtick. That's the show. And so I thank him for what he's doing that is serving white well-being. Roy Danton, back again, $5. I would also like to take the opportunity to thank both the two of you, as well as this absolutely amazing audience, for inspiring me and also helping me over a brief moment of utter frustration. Well, thank you, Roy. And look at how this goes both ways, ladies and gentlemen, in that we just had Nathan, a brand new participant in the community for white well-being, who super chatted a couple days ago with the comment that he loves how Roy comes in as like the pinch hitter when the anti-whites are in the live chat and they're trying to say disparaging things about me, and Roy comes in with some big super chat and a comment saying, I support everything that's going on here, really giving a massive slap down. If you want to slap someone down, you just need to look to Roy's technique and a couple of the others. I mean, especially that night, we had that really just transformative night when people were trying to question my character, and so many of you, including Roy, great people, came forward and said, no, we have faith in you, we believe in you, and this is how much we believe in you, with their words, with their dollars. That really was a transformative night. And what ended up happening to all of those anti-whites? They ran away with their tail between their legs. They saw that they had accomplished the exact opposite. Instead of inspiring people to be worried about what was going on here, they inspired people to take action for white well-being. That is what going free truly is, ladies and gentlemen. That is why this is something different. And this is going to be the wave that moves through the country and awakens our people, a truly new Western sunrise. As we had somebody just say, maybe I can find it as we get Jared, your final words, and we'll see if I can find that comment. Did I read a comment about, or did I just see it about the Western sunrise? Magnificent comment. I'll see if I can find it. I don't think that you read it.
Well, give us your final thoughts, Jared. Oh, we also have 22 and she in the question widget. It's been up here for a while. Says reading material about spycraft and sabotage teaches you how our enemy always undermines us. We should also have a white positive information broker and info gatherers. D-class government manuals are free. 22 and she, take up that role. Be that person. Pull in that information. put together material for all of us so that we can see what they're doing and what they're up to and act accordingly. We know how to defend ourselves against what the anti-whites are bringing against us. Horatius over here says he probably thinks, talking about Nick, I believe, that at level 1 or 2 of awareness to the threat is good for black pilling, but level 3, 4, 5 aren't. Maybe so. Yeah, you get people, you do sell people better by telling them that they have a negative outcome. But if you're telling them, if you're telling people, look at the bad that's going to happen because of the anti-whites, that's one thing. But if you're telling them there's no hope, that's not going to be good for anybody. Jared, what are your final thoughts?
Somebody said, weren't you guys shooting for an hour? Dan said it, who contributed. I said before, and I said, well, we just get so much love and energy from doing this. And we will be streaming more, as I said, as much as we can. We're thinking, again, this is all evolving on the spot. So it's not like we have, this is your regularly scheduled programming. But we're thinking of using Tuesday nights to kind of announce what's going to go on over the next week. Now, we're still in site building phase and behind the scenes stuff phase. Jason is working on a second edition of Go Free, as he was saying. So we don't have that all filled up yet. We're just kind of using tonight to get into the groove. We're not about to announce that we have 4 more shows between now and next Tuesday. We don't. Maybe we'll do some spontaneous ones. We still have to get tapped together for Thursday. So, because really the focus for the last couple of weeks have been on building this structure. As I said, a website that's going to be kind of the home base for all of this, not only for the shows we put out, and you'll be able to more easily, I think, glance at and search our archives and everything we've done up to this point, more easily be able to find all that than ever before. But there's also going to be some other features, including a community and collaboration page, as I said before, with the type of videos that Jason was describing, music, remixes, original videos from the community here will also be highlighted on our site because we're all in this together. It's going to be a different kind of experience. So we've been working hard to take things to the next level. You know, we started TAP a little over a year and a half ago, and we've gone through a lot of growth and a lot of amazing things have happened for Jason and I, both individually and together as a team during that time. And it all happened very naturally. And we wanted to, without trying to push things too hard, because as I said, we're going to learn and do this together and get your feedback as we grow this out. But we consciously made a decision to step things up and take all the momentum and all the enthusiasm that's been behind this and really manifest it in some more tangible ways. So we're excited about that, but I don't have anything else to say other than I love doing this. I love you all. I love being your brother, Jason. Doing all of this is such a blessing in my life. So meaningful, gives so much purpose, and we're having a lot of fun doing it as well. There's nothing better. So thank you from the bottom of my heart to you and to all of you here. And we'll be back soon with all kinds of things, all kinds of ways to learn and get better together and have fun together and be able to affect the people in our lives better. That's what we're doing here. And it's a blessing. It's an honor to do it.
Thank you, brother. And I think and I thank you all for being here again. And I think the comment, next time I'll have it, I think it was by Sterling Price. And I think it was about this year is his personal the Western sunrise. There is a Western sunrise. As I said, this would be the year of the Western sunrise. And it is indeed, ladies and gentlemen, it will be the first year of the Western sunrise. There will be many more years to come as that sun rises further and further into the sky. And it's going to be a glorious day when it reaches noontide. So I want to thank you all for being here. It's been absolutely remarkable. Thank you for going free with us. And I will be back soon. Maybe not Sunday, but with a going free, but we will definitely be back on Thursday with TAP, Wednesday with I'll be there, PWR, and we will see you all again soon. Let's go free.